Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Articulating Insight, the podcast where I talk to creative and inspiring people from around the internet about the basic tenets of artistic expression and whatever else we want to talk about. In this episode, my guest is the anime music video editor, podcaster, poker enthusiast, and the porno king of hentai AMVs, MexicanJunior. I first heard about MexicanJunior around AMV circles in the past, mainly due to his over-the-top and shocking hentai music videos that were very influential on the early AMV scene. But what brought him to my attention to bring him to this podcast was I stumbled upon his music video for INXS's Never Tear Us Apart using Video Girl I, which is an anime I'm very fond of. And that video blew my mind in how just, like, unguardedly emotional it is, and the expressive editing, which is crazy, because that video was made in, like, 2003, and it has some crazy effects for a 2003 video. So I just instantly fell in love with that video. And then I saw that he himself runs a podcast, which is excellent, called How Many, which I highly recommend checking out, which he talks about more at the end of this episode. And so I thought, well, he's clearly already comfortable, getting his voice out there and stuff, so I think he'd be a great guest for this podcast. And I was right. In the start of this episode, we do get really specific about the technical details of anime music videos and also what the early anime music video scene was like. And, I mean, I guess it is a little niche. If you're unfamiliar with those scenes, hopefully you can find it interesting regardless, because I think it's just a really cool conversation about, like, growing art form and finding your way in that. But if you find that stuff a little dry, I highly recommend sticking this episode out until about an hour 10 about, where he starts talking about the kind of inspiration and, like, kind of behind the scenes story behind a few of his videos, because I thought it was crazy. Like, it's cool to see how a medium as supposedly impersonal, quote unquote, as AMVs, because you didn't technically make the footage, you didn't technically make the music. It's still beholden to the same influences that any art form is, including personal expression. So I think it's an amazing conversation. I hope you can make it through to that part, because I think it's awesome. And if you want, we do specifically get into some of his videos, so if you want to check him out, specifically his Kiki's Delivery Service AMV that uses the Association's Windy, which I think is a great song. Of course, as previously mentioned, the Video Girl I video with the INXS song, and also his Ichi the Killer OVA video with Talking Heads' Psycho Killer, which is another crazily edited video for how old it is. But yeah, I think we just had a great conversation. MexicanJunior was so open about the whole early AMV scene and what it was like for him to experience that, his process making videos, and then I think there's actually a really great talk at the end about the connections between gambling and craft and what those things have in common and how those bring out similar drives in people. And I'm super satisfied with how this episode turned out. I was super excited to talk to MexicanJunior, who, I mean, with my experience making AMVs, and I talked to someone as passionate and creative as MexicanJunior, it was such an honor. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and without further ado, let's get to the conversation.
I actually started watching AMVs probably 99, 2000, in that era. I kind of got late to the kind of the anime party, I guess you could say. I didn't really start watching a lot of anime until Toonami hit, like in the mid to late 90s. Obviously, like a lot of people, I started off with Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing, a lot of those things that they were showing around that time frame. And seeing those shows kind of got me curious because this was around the beginning of the boom of the internet and people actually getting on PCs and logging in, lots of dial up and things like that. So
Yeah.
uh, I looked through and tried to find DBZ websites, find sites that had clips, maybe things that hadn't been shown here on Toonami yet. Because I don't know if you were watching back then, but when Dragon Ball Z was being shown on Toonami back then, they had they were starting it, right in the Raditz saga, and they would take it all the way to about the point where Gohan and Krillin were fighting the Ginyu Force on Namek, and then there was a specific episode where it would stop and then start all over again, and it would cycle through that set of episodes for several years before they actually got the second half of the Namek saga. so so I was curious. I was like, okay, well maybe some of the Dragon Ball websites had some clips that hadn't been released in the US, and as I was doing those searches, that's when I started finding not only some of those clips that were subtitled, but people making anime music videos, and that kind of just piqued my curiosity, and then it kind of just grew from there. I was like, well, this was around the time that people had PCs that were using Windows ME, and Windows ME had a program called Windows Movie Maker. And it was a very basic editing program where you imported videos, you imported one audio track, and you could basically just line up the clips with the audio as best you could. It didn't have any transparencies or overlays or anything like that. It was a very, very basic straight cuts. But that kind of got me going in kind of my AMV journey. I probably used Windows Movie Maker for the first maybe 1 to 2 years of making AMVs, and I was prolific in making bad videos. I probably made maybe 15 or so really horrendous videos, exported them in WMV file, which is about the lowest compression that you could possibly put and give you the lowest video quality. Because at that time, people didn't just have websites and bandwidth and any way to share a lot of really high-end files, because bandwidth was scarce back then. So people were using sites like GeoCities. I was using GeoCities, Homestead, AltaVista, all of these free web pages that had limits on the video files you could upload and share, and they had bandwidth caps and things like that. So if I wanted to get my work out there, I needed to make the video file as small as possible while still keeping it somewhat coherent and actually viewable for the viewer. But yeah, those video files in those early days were really, really rough from a quality standpoint. And on top of it, I wasn't using DVDs or anything back then. Ripping DVDs wasn't common practice. People had capture cards and they would use VHS tapes, but I wasn't that high tech at that time. I was just downloading clips, real media files, MPEG ones, things like that. The lowest of lowest end video quality files. Nowadays, you can go and get Blu-rays on file sharing platforms and torrents, things like that. It's really easy to get the highest quality videos possible. But back then, it was a different story entirely. So yeah. It was about 2003 when I got a little bit more active in the AMV community. I got an account on animemusicvideos.org, which you have an account also, I saw. And at that time, a lot of people were kind of sharing their videos, and they were also sharing their expertise on how to make videos. Early on, one of the people that I met on AMV.org actually lived in my area. I'm in Dallas, Texas. What area are you in?
I'm in Edmonton, Canada. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, this is an international call. Very cool.
Absolutely.
So I'm in Dallas, Texas, and I had a guy that I met through AMV.org that was also in Dallas, and he had an extra capture card that was a USB-based capture card. And I used that to capture some VHS anime that I had. And that became my first AMV using non-downloaded footage. I'm not sure if you saw it. It's on the YouTube page that I have. It was the Kiki's Delivery Service video,
Yeah, yeah,
Service with a Smile.
yeah. With the
Uh,
association song, yeah, yeah.
yeah. That one was the first one that I did using Adobe Premiere instead of Windows Movie Maker, and using actual footage that I captured myself instead of just downloading it. Um, and then from there, I just tried to do a little bit more. I got to the point where I learned how to rip DVDs, and the quality kind of just grew from there. And I was active making AMVs from, like I said, about 2001. Then I kind of stopped around 2005, early 2006 was kind of when uh, I kind of just stopped altogether. And it wasn't anything in particular that made me do it. It's just I was getting really busy at work during that time, and I kind of just lost focus. I wasn't watching as many new animes as I had been previously. And that all kind of factored into it. But I look very fondly upon those days in the early to mid 2000s. I went to a lot of anime conventions, met a lot of awesome people that are friends with me still to this day on amv.org and locally through the convention scenes as well.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So, like, were there a lot of conventions, like, in your area, like in Dallas?
Yeah. So in Dallas in particular, there was a big anime convention called ACON that had an AMV contest. So a lot of the people that I had met up with in the Texas area, not just Dallas, but there was AMV editors from Austin, from Houston. We would all kind of merge into these anime cons in the area, and ACON was a big one. Another one that we used to frequent was called YushiCon, which was in Austin. That one also had an AMV contest. There's any conventions we went to, the running theme was usually there was an AMV contest that we had all submitted videos to. And, part of the fun, in addition to just seeing all of your friends in person, as opposed to just, talking to them on AOL chat and all of those old formats that we all used to do, Yahoo Messenger, IRC channels,
Yeah.
all of those old school chat programs that we used to talk to each other on. It was just an awesome experience to meet all those people in person. Plus, we had the added bonus of seeing our videos on the big screen in front of an audience, which is one of those things that when that happens, it really blows you away, especially if the reaction is good. I didn't really start submitting videos until I felt confident that they were actually not going to get booed. So a lot of those early ones that I made that were made in Windows Movie Maker, I didn't even bother, because I was like, man, these videos you're not even it's gonna look like one giant pixel on a giant screen. I wouldn't even bother submitting it. But when I got to the point where I felt like, okay, this would actually be viewable on a giant projector screen, I started submitting, and the crowd reactions for the most part were always favorable. And there's nothing like getting people clapping to your video when it's it's cheering, things like that. It's something else. And then when you actually win a couple of awards and go up and accept your trophies and things like that, it's something that I'll never forget. It was an awesome experience every time.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. And like, so since you were getting started, like way in the early days, did you notice that like, did they start to get bigger over the years that you were involved in that, or like how did the communities change?
Yeah, well, from a convention standpoint, the first con that I ever went to was YushiCon in Austin, and it was a tiny, tiny convention in a small hotel, and it didn't have that many people. The AMV contest was really small. I don't even know that they actually had a contest at that one. It was just more of a showing, but they weren't actually giving out awards or anything. But when I went to ACON, and then there was another one in Dallas called Anime Fest that we used to go to as well. But ACON was huge. I mean, it was, 10 times the amount of people that YushiCon had. And that's when I could tell, oh, okay, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. And for a lot of AMV editors, the biggest anime convention for AMV specifically is the one in Atlanta, Georgia, called Anime Weekend Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that one.
Yeah, yeah.
But that one is considered kind of the Super Bowl of AMVs, because they have an entire room in the hotel giant viewing room dedicated to AMVs 24/7. They show videos nonstop. They have panels. They have blocks of specific genres of AMVs. They have request blocks where you basically say, "Hey, will you show these 5 videos I've made?" And they'll do it as long as you're in attendance.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, I went to that one. I want to say 4 times, and every time I went, I met the amount of people that I met in person that I had talked to online grew exponentially, and I made a lot of really, really good friends at those conventions that, like I said, are still friends with me today. But growing that base of networking with other AMV editors, it quadrupled when I went to that convention. That was the biggest one I had ever been to.
Damn. Yeah. No, that's so cool.
And just even from an online standpoint, from the time that AMV.org kind of started and when I joined it, it was pretty early on in its inception, and it didn't have that many members. But by the time I kind of stopped making AMVs, where before it had hundreds, it turned into thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
One of the things that really blew that up was their introduction of file sharing and hosting AMVs. Because at the beginning, AMV.org was just a place where you could catalog your videos, but it wasn't a place for you to actually upload your videos. So you would catalog your video, put a description, and then it gave you a place to link your video to, a third-party hosting, whatever place you were actually hosting your videos. This is way before the days of YouTube, where everybody just, goes on YouTube and uploads whatever videos they have. So you actually had to pay for your own hosting if you wanted your video to be downloaded and seen. The other big way to get your video out there outside of, hosting it yourself was peer-to-peer sharing programs. And so things like Keza and Morpheus, iMesh, LimeWire, those were all of that was the other place where you could say, okay, I'm going to share my folder of AMVs and I'll just leave it running, 24/7, and people would just go and download them from your folder. And a lot of the early videos that I was not proud of, I shared a lot of them because at that time I didn't know that I was a terrible video maker, right? Like, I was like, I know the quality isn't great, but I assume everybody else's quality is similar to mine. So, why don't I get my videos? I probably shared, 10 to 15 of them. Like on Keza specifically was really popular for that. And a lot of those videos that I ended up sharing, I noticed several ended up getting uploaded to YouTube later by different users. Like one of the videos that was really, really popular, and I got a lot of email feedback because all of my MVs always had my email address at the end.
Yeah, the Hotmail thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always put that in just in case anybody wanted to send me an email and give me feedback. And one of them, my Evangelion video with the Rage Against the Machine song, Sleep Now in the Fire.
Mm-hmm.
That one, for some reason, became extremely popular. And I would get emails every day from people saying, "Oh, man, I love this video. Can you upload the higher quality version of it?" And I was like, you're kind of looking at it, buddy. I don't think I have anything else. This is about as good as it's going to get. I honestly, I had thought about remastering that video several times, but I'm just too lazy at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a lot of feedback that way. And then when YouTube got big, I noticed a lot of other people were uploading that video as well. Now, since that time, I guess Rage Against the Machine and the recording company that owns their rights put a kibosh on all of those videos. Mm-hmm. You'll get copyright strikes as soon as somebody tries to upload it. But for a little while, I found at least 10 versions of that video by different users that they had uploaded. And usually in the description always said the same thing. Downloaded this from file sharing, when I was 5 years old or 10 years old or something. So it was kind of humbling to know that, 10 and 15-year-olds, 10 years later, were actually uploading this video and saying, "Yeah, I remember this when I was in elementary school. It was a cool video. I just wanted to share it with everybody." I was like, "Man, I didn't realize I had touched so many lives." It was funny.
Oh, that's so cool. And I was thinking like those early days of file sharing and stuff. It would. I have a feeling it would be like a different feel when you get a video because you just find it like in LimeWire, like in just this huge mess of just things, and then it's just on your computer and there's no comment section, there's no likes or dislikes. It's just like this super insular thing. I think like that would totally change the vibe of like your engagement with the video.
Yeah, back then, it was a lot different in terms of interacting with your, I guess, online audience. There wasn't the, instant feedback of people giving you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The way you knew somebody, downloaded and liked your video was if somebody sent you an email, or there was a lot of websites and a lot of forums discussions where people would share their AMV list and say, okay, these are all the AMVs I have if somebody wants to take one. And people would share like their list of AMVs to share like on torrents and things like that. So, obviously me, I get curious every once in a while, Google my name and say, okay, MexicanJunior and AMV, let's see what comes up. And then you'll see people like, oh, okay, this guy's got like 7 of my videos on his sharing folder. And that's kind of how you knew, oh, okay, somebody actually liked my work. Now it's completely different. Like you upload something to YouTube and people will tell you right away if they don't like it. And or worse yet, they'll be like, you'll upload it thinking it's really good, and then maybe you'll get 10 views in 3 months, and it's like, oh, okay,
Yep.
That's pretty humbling.
Yep.
The versions that I have on my YouTube channel right now are actually like the second and third iterations of those videos. So like there was a wave of AMVs I uploaded probably around 2010 or so. And a lot of them got taken down due to copyrights and things like that. But those had a lot of views, and I hated losing them because it's like, well, okay, some of these have like 50K, 100,000 views, and lots of comments. But once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
So, and then also at that time, YouTube had an upload limit on their files too. So I couldn't upload the highest quality versions of those videos. Like I have MPEG-2s of all of my videos that I've made. And but back then, in all of those range between 1 to 200 meg. And but back then, I was uploading ones that were under like 50 meg. So I was uploading XVID versions. This was before I was doing MP. Everybody was doing MP4. So I had MPEG-1 versions and XVID versions that I was uploading. So the quality obviously degraded. Back then on YouTube especially, their compression was a little bit rougher than it is now.
Yeah.
If you upload an XVID in 2010, man, you're going to see a lot of pixelation, a lot more than you do if you just saw the raw file.
Yeah.
So that definitely factored into people's comments as well. But it was nice to actually see, 20,000 views, 50,000 views, things like that. But the versions that I have on there now are the MPEG-2 versions. Once I was able to upload, higher file size files like that. But this wave of ones that I've uploaded that are higher quality, they're hovering, maybe between 50 to 100, 150 views, 200 views. Some of them are a little bit higher, but it's definitely different.
Yeah.
Kind of wish I had those old view counts.
It comes and goes. So this is just a really specific question, but with that that Kiki's Delivery Service video, was that an MPEG-2? Because it looked a little
No.
blocky.
Okay, so that one was done with VHS capture. So I used a capture card.
Yeah.
And it was before I started working with Huffy files, which was like a lossless codec.
Yeah.
So I was editing, I want to say MJPEG files that were like, and I was capturing at like 352 by 240 or something. So because at the capture card that I was using was a USB capture card. And this was before high-speed USB. This was these were the old slow USB connections, right?
Yeah.
And slow cables. So if I tried to capture at anything higher quality and anything higher resolution than 352 by 240, I would get lost pixels left and right and frame rates being dropped all over the place. So I had to capture at a really, really low frame rate and really, really small resolution in order for it to run smoothly. And then when I did the video, I couldn't, obviously, I didn't want to blow up the resolution because it would just make it look horrible. So I kept the resolution the way it was. So that version that's on YouTube is an MPEG-1 that was, 352 by 240 resolution or something like that.
Yeah.
It's weird. I've had a couple of people remaster my videos for me. I don't know if you've seen it, but the Utena video, Liquid Petals with the Flower Girl song.
Yeah.
That one I made in Windows Movie Maker, and the original version is a WMV. If you watch that video, there is a comment at the beginning that says this is a remastered version by I think his name was Michael Walter. His AMV.org name was Tsukin, Tsukin, who also had a really, really popular AMV, back in the old days. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but I forgot what it's called, but it was like a high action, very bloody, very violent video, and it was awesome. I wish I knew the name of it, but it's fantastic. If you search for that person's name, Tsukin, in YouTube, you'll probably find it. But it was a tremendous video.
Yeah.
Anyway, and what he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I took that video and I remastered it, and I used DVD footage because that video I downloaded the Utena movie straight off of Keza, and it had the subtitles in it and everything." I was so limited in the footage I could use to make that video because I was purposely trying to avoid scenes with people talking.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't because since I was using Windows Movie Maker, I had no way to crop those subtitles out.
Yep.
And I knew enough back then to know that people hate subtitles in their AMVs.
Yep.
So I specifically looked only for scenes that had no subtitles and no talking. And some of the scenes where music was playing, I had to avoid because the musical lyrics were at the bottom of the scenes. It was so difficult. But yeah, he remastered the entire video, sent it to me in a very high quality MP4, and he said, "Just do whatever you want with it. If you want to upload it, great. If not, just keep it for your own personal use. I have no expectations. I just wanted to do this."
Yeah.
Now, I was blown away that somebody would take the time to remaster a video that wasn't even theirs just because they felt like it. And he was actually the second person that wanted to do that. There was another person that tried to remaster that video and sent me a beta of that video, but he had changed it a little bit, but he used the same anime, he used the same song, and he was using DVD quality. And he had changed some of the scenes, but he said, "Hey, is it cool if I, remaster basically your idea, use a lot of the same footage that you're using, but maybe change it a little?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't care. I don't own any of the footage. I don't own any of the ideas. Anybody can do what they want with what they want. I'm not one of those people that, takes it seriously enough to get upset if somebody, felt like they wanted to remake my video or even use footage from my video. I'm very laid back when it comes to that. I know a lot of other people are not like that, but I'm a very laid back person when it comes to AMVs. And if you want to do something like that, go for it.
Yeah.
That's not the only video too that people have remastered or changed or things like that. The Money Shot video also, somebody remastered that one. There's been a couple like that, and some of them I'm cool with all of them, obviously, but some of them worked out better than others, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, speaking of Money Shot, this is something I was interested in is hentai music videos and stuff. There's something I've made a little bit of too, but it's still a scene I don't really know because, there's no YouTube for it really. I mean, I guess you can go on X videos and Pornhub and stuff, but it all feels so scattered and stuff.
Yeah, and even that, like X videos, Pornhub, if you upload a video that has, actual copyrighted music, it gets taken down pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like I tried that in the early days of trying to find hosting for those videos because people would ask me, "Hey, where can I find this video?
Yeah.
Is it on YouTube or anything?" I was like, "No, I mean, YouTube would take it away right away."
Mm-hmm.
So I try to, make accounts and upload those videos, and sometimes they would stick around for a little while, but most of the time they would get booted like right away.
Oh.
Like I like but if you do a search for Money Shot AMV, Bible Black Relax, all of the keywords,
Yeah.
there is some websites that have them.
Nice.
But they're the resolution and the quality on them looks so awful. Like, like I don't know what kind of compression those websites use, but it looks so bad. And sometimes the sync is a little bit off too.
Mm-hmm.
I always prefer, if people have the patience for it, if they would just download the hosted version as an actual raw file, just because that is the best quality. There's not going to be any drop frames, or it's not going to be there won't be anything related to your internet connection or the connection of the site that will make the video seem off timing wise than it should.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. Hentai AMVs was not a big thing even in the early days. There was a couple out there, but they weren't all that popular because there was anime conventions weren't really that much in the business of showing those, at least during normal convention hours. But Anime Weekend Atlanta was one of the early conventions that had a block in the video art room, which was they called it the VAT, the video art track. That's where they showed AMVs 24/7. They would have late night showings, from maybe midnight to 2 or something, of just hentai AMVs, and they actually had in their awards specifically for adult videos.
Yeah.
And that's where I submitted a lot of my work. And I actually won an award at Anime Weekend Atlanta for Money Shot. I won an award for the Tub Girl video. I won an award for the HAMV Hell video, which that one felt a little like cheating because that one was just all of the clips I used in AMV Hell Zero, is an AMV Hell dedicated specifically to hentai and really gross out stuff. But I thought the segments were so fun and so good that I wanted to be able to release that as its own separate video just for convention purposes. And the people that ran AMV Hell, Zarzax, I don't know if you've heard of him, Alan Klontz, and Brian Moore, who was SSGWTNBD, something like that. The acronym was like some stupid guy with nothing better to do or something like that. They were gracious enough to allow me to do that because it was their project. I was just submitting clips for that project. And they said, yeah, whatever you want to do is cool. If you want to take all of those clips and make your own video out of it and submit it, as long as you do it after the release of AMV Hell Zero, it's fine. And that's how it worked out.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And so, through those videos is actually kind of how I'd heard of you at first a long time ago, is that like in the AMV.org like Discord server, like they still mention it's like, the only mention that I heard about you were almost like a kind of like troll editor, like as far as with Tub Girl the animation or some of your HMV Hell like segments. So like, was that your intention with those videos? Like, I mean, like they're obviously like very shocking and like,
yes.
in that sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a funny story. When I first started making videos and I was using Windows Movie Maker, during that Windows Movie Maker time, I made a porn video called PFS, but it stands for Points for Sex. And it used that hentai parody, I think Sailor and the Seven Balls, which was a like a parody of Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, had Neon Genesis Evangelion characters, Fist of the North Star, all basically having at it, right? So I took that footage and I made this silly video, and I had a counter at the bottom showing the amount of points everybody was getting for each sex act I was showing. And after I made that video and I shared it on AMV.org, the person that ran AMV.org, his name's Fade, Chris McCormick, he was not too happy that I was doing that. And I think this was before they were doing file sharing as a website. At the beginning, they called it the Golden Donut. what they would call people that if you pledged a certain amount of money and donated, you could upload as many videos as you want, and it even had the little preview link, which was like an early version of what YouTube basically did.
Yeah.
Um, he did not really approve of those videos so much, and he was like, well, if you are going to share it, you have to use your own hosting, obviously, and I don't really approve of this kind of thing. And I was like, okay. So the next hentai AMV I made was Money Shot, and because of that interaction, I tried to make it as explicit and nasty as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because of that interaction I had with Fade, and I actually met Fade in person at AWA.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, really nice. But I don't know, something about kind of getting slapped on the wrist for the original one.
Yeah.
Made me want to make them bigger and more gross and nasty with every iteration. So
Yeah.
I went from and Points for Sex is, I mean, it's nasty. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's gross or anything. It's just kind of a funny video.
Yeah.
But every iteration after that, I tried to gross people out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Tub Girl was kind of the culmination of that, and then the HMV Hell stuff was basically Alan Klontz and Brian Moore telling me, we want this project, this multi-editor project, to be as gross as possible.
Oh.
So make your clips, as shocking as possible, because that's what they were going for. They were going for shocking. I was like, well, you want shocking? I can give you shocking.
Yeah.
And I made, I don't know, 8 clips for them. People joke that I made like half a video, which I didn't, but I did make my fair share of videos. And it came at the expense of other multi-editor projects that I was in, because during that time I was also in the video game AMV projects, the NES project and the retro video game project and VG3. And I was actually a coordinator for that. The original NES project was actually an idea I came up with at Anime Weekend Atlanta. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but at the beginning of it, there's actually a clip of me drunk off my ass talking about, because and I know I'm really getting into the weeds with this stuff, but have you heard of the Dance Dance Revolution project?
Not the project, I don't think so.
Okay, there was a multi-editor project called the DDR projects, and it was basically taking the Dance Dance Revolution soundtrack and each different song, making a mini AMV for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it would always premiere at Anime Weekend Atlanta.
Yeah.
And as me and all of my friends were watching this, we were like, you know what? I don't really like this music. Like, what if we took all of the old Nintendo like music, 8-bit music, and turned those into AMVs? I like those songs. Like, I like the Zelda theme song and the Mario Brothers theme song, and Mike Tyson's Punch Out theme song, which was the video I ended up making for it. Why don't we do that instead? And that kind of got the ball rolling, and we found all of these remixes on ocremix.org and vgmusic.org, and that turned into that project. But so I guess getting back to the AMV Hell stuff, we were in the midst of doing, I think the second or third iteration of that video game project while I was trying to make the videos for the AMV Hell Zero project. And my co-coordinators were not happy that I was spending so much time making hentai mini AMVs and not finishing the project that was basically my project. And I am an actual coordinator, and I'm blowing that off just to make these small porn videos for somebody else's project that they have nothing to do with. So, yeah, kind of became a point of contention that year. That was like 2005.
Yeah, that's really funny. You got to commit to the bit,
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and let's say you go on the AMV.org forums and you do a search for hentai music videos, my name would come up and people would say, well, if you want to talk hentai MVs, this is the person that kind of got the ball rolling on it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll dispute that, and I'll be like, no, people were doing it, way before me. I'm not trying to take credit for any kind of movement or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my friends, his name is Julian Milo. He was. Have you ever heard of Hypodermic Studios?
I not at the top of my head, but I've probably seen him around.
His AMV.org name was Beowulf. He made a really popular AMV called. It was using Evangelion and Radiohead. The song was 2 + 2 = 5. Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he was from Austin, so he was one of the guys I knew from the convention circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Don't try and backtrack on being, the king of porn. You built your throne on a stack of hentai DVDs, for God's sakes. Don't backtrack now. Like, you might as well embrace it." And after he said that, I was like, you know what? I am gonna embrace it. Fuck it. Like, what do I care?
That's so fucking awesome, man. Because there's something beautiful in hentai AMVs. People don't get it, and I think you tap into something really great in yours too. So, props.
Yeah. So after Money Shot in 2003, some categories at different conventions started opening up. Like, there was a convention in Florida called AFO, Anime Florida or something.
Yeah.
I won. They had a hentai category, and I won best hentai video there. YushiCon, which was the Austin convention, had a hentai category. A-Con, which was the Dallas one, had it. So I was really, at that time, I was really proud of that video, because not only was I trying to be 10 times nastier than the Points for Sex video, but at that time, I had actually gotten really comfortable using Adobe Premiere, and all of the editing was really, I felt like I had really started hitting my stride from an editing standpoint, with beat syncs and lyric syncs. And I've never really been a huge effects guy, but I started using transparencies and overlays. It was a big change for me from the straight cuts style of editing that I was doing in Windows Movie Maker. So at that time, I was really proud of that video. Now, after that, 2004, 2005, I got more familiar with Adobe Premiere, started using a lot more transparency work, rotoscoping, things like that. But that was the first time I had actually expanded, my editing style a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I remember you have, like, on your amv.org profile, you have, like, your top 5 videos, and Money Shot was number 1. Would that change now? Like, what videos do you look back on most fondly now?
I think I would keep Money Shot number 1, because the reaction it got from people. Like, at that time, like I said, hentai AMVs was not, 100% new, but I think that was one of the first times that an AMV that was a hentai AMV got kind of popular, and and it was almost mainstream, kind of. It wasn't really mainstream back then. People weren't really doing that, and they weren't sharing it if they were in public forums and public circles. Like, if they did make something like that, they would probably just show it to their friends, or have some late night showing at some convention that only a certain amount of people were seeing. I don't think people were releasing it worldwide like that on a forum as big as amv.org was at that time. So I kind of felt really proud of that one, and it was mainly not only because I thought it was a pretty good video. People really reacted to it in a positive way, and I think it opened up a lot more conventions wanting to have hentai AMV showings and actual hentai AMV categories in their contests. So I'm not going to say it changed everything, but I think it helped in a little way.
You made the deep throat of AMVs. Like, look at you changing the game.
The Debbie Does Dallas of hentai AMVs.
There you go.
It obviously, it's not something I can put on my resume, but it's kind of a cool little thing to have in my in my cap, a little feather in my cap, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hey, it's you influenced the subculture. That's not something a lot of people can say. That's so great.
Speaking of hentai AMVs, so two of the videos that I watched of yours. Lightworks was that Susie Wong stripper dancing video.
Yeah.
I thought that one was really cool. It had a nice little lip sync in the middle.
Yeah.
It had good beat sync. I was curious though, how much actual footage did you have that you needed to stretch out into that like 2-minute video?
That was like, I don't know, 40 seconds generously.
Yeah, I was going to say, it felt like 40 to 45 seconds that you were really trying to get as much out of as possible.
Yeah. Well,
with all of the, the reverse camera angles and the and the beat sync, reversing back to the same beat sync, and then kind of reusing some of the footage. But I liked it. I think it was really well done. All of the sync was definitely on point.
Yeah, no, and that was like kind of a trip for me, because I had kind of made like a hard and fast rule before to never reuse footage in an AMV, just because I'd seen people do that before and it never struck me as particularly creative. It's like, oh, I've seen this part before. And so it was the first video where I was like, I love this concept so much of just this singular scene and the way she moves. And it's so, like, no stripper would fucking dance like that. She's like, there's so many shots in there that are just so weird.
What anime was that? It didn't look familiar to me at all.
That's an old Rintaro OVA, like the guy who did like Metropolis and stuff. It's called Download Devil's Circuit, that has this amazing energy. And yeah, I just found that randomly, and I was listening to Jay Dill at the time, and then I saw that clip. I was like, I gotta do something with this. Like, this is so cool.
It sounds cool. I probably need to check that out. The footage seemed really, really interesting, and the song was very cool. So I gave that one a thumbs up.
Thank you.
The other one that I saw, Baby, which was a chick in the shower.
Yeah.
That one didn't have as much beat sync. The chick was hot. You did have some really good transparency works toward the end. The only thing that was kind of off-settling was the censored footage, where it's just nothing but a glow stick.
Yeah.
That's in front of the girl.
I thought that was like a really funny. But for Cream Lemon, I can't find an uncensored source for it. I've been looking around, man, and it's like, ugh. And it's such a big series too. Like, that was kind of, from what I've read, that was kind of like the first big hentai series to really like hit it big. And there's so many cool stories. Hidaki Anno worked on a few episodes that are really amazing, but no uncensored version that I could find, which is a big piss off.
Well, and I had heard the title, but I had never seen it. It does look very interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you for checking those out. I really appreciate it.
And it since we're talking about your AMVs, I also watched Destruct, the Eva Talking Heads video. Yeah. I really like that one. Of the 4 I saw, that's probably the one I really enjoyed the most. So much action sync, your use of overlays, that guitar video static effect you were using, where it made it look like the antenna was getting off kilter. That was really cool. And then the ending was like so cool. It was like all over the place. I'm a fan of chaos editing. Like you had mentioned you had seen the Psycho Killer AMV that I did from 2000. I think it was 2004. I made that ending like try and be as chaotic as possible. I used probably like 10 different video tracks all overlaying on top of each other.
Oh, man.
Just to make it look like really crazy and psychedelic. And and your ending in that Destruct video kind of reminded me of that. And then the Perot one, the Eva, and it was like a blues song. I wasn't familiar with the song, but it was really good lyric sync with the movie footage kind of being in line with the lyrics in the song. They had a really good flow. It looked like you used Karikano in the middle. So it kind of snuck that in. Like, I was like, whoa, that doesn't look like the same show.
Yeah, no.
And then it had really cool ending with all of those eye close-ups overlaying on top of each other. I really like that part of it too.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know how many of my videos you've seen, but I'm really big on lyric sync.
If you hear a rose, man, you got to see that goddamn rose, you know?
Yes, so the person that said that, his name is Tim Stair. He goes by Fluxmeister on AMV.org. Very, very popular AMV editor. I'm sure you've probably seen one of his videos at some point. They're all over the place. He was a tremendous editor. He actually won the Masters contest. I want to say 2004, maybe.
Oh yeah.
At AWA.
Yeah.
He actually got the green jacket and everything.
Nice.
But yeah, he was one of the co-coordinators on those video game projects, the NES project and RVG. and he was really a big influence on me and really helped me from a technical standpoint. In back when I was starting to use Adobe Premiere, he was one of the people that wanted me to kind of expand my editing style, because at the very beginning, since I was doing a lot of straight cuts in Windows Movie Maker, the only way I could really keep in tune with the song is by just matching up whatever they're saying in the song to whatever footage I'm using.
Yeah.
And it became kind of a running joke, like Tim would say, if there's a rose, if he says rose in the song, there better be a fucking rose on the screen, or else something is wrong. And the Grave of the Fireflies video I did, I don't know if you ever saw that one. It was using the Seasons in the Sun song, the Terry Jacks song. There's a scene in there where the lyrics of the song say starfish on the beach. And I actually found a scene with a starfish on the beach in Grave of the Fireflies. And there was another editor. His name is Daniel Chang. D.W. Chang is his org name. He was also from Austin. He got a huge kick out of that. He's like, man, you actually took the time to find a starfish on the beach. And the bad thing is, he says that twice in the song. But I'm like you, I didn't want to reuse the same scene. So I used the second time in that song, in that video, that he says starfish on the beach, I have a scene of a crab walking on the beach.
It's close.
And I was like, man, this is going to be close enough, but he never let me hear the end of it. He's like, that's a crab. That's not a starfish.
You betrayed the audience.
Yeah, you've ruined it. This is now a 0. You've gone from a 10 to a 0 because of this. So, but it's all in good fun. I'm huge on lyric sync, and there was a time where when I got to the point where I got better at editing and I got better at beat sync. Beat sync felt more like a math equation than it did like an actual artistic endeavor, I guess you could say, because all I'm doing is timing out the wavelength on the audio file and say, okay, let me make a marker here, make a marker here, make a marker here. I need cuts here, 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 here. I need to bring the transparencies down to have the black strobes here, 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 here. It just feels like a math project, and it doesn't feel like like something that's flowing. And there was a time where I wanted to get away from that style of editing, and I'd focus more on just the feel of the song and the lyrics of the song. But obviously, I kind of did both. Like, I mean, there's videos of mine that is very, very beat sync heavy. And then there's others where like I'm like not even paying attention to the beats, and it's just all lyrics, and it's just all how the song feels in relation to the scenes. I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to editing.
Yeah, well, from seeing a couple of your earlier ones, and then seeing the Kiki's Delivery Service one, that felt like a kind of a breakthrough in terms of really meshing the lyrics and like the kind of just the feel of the song with the footage, which obviously was like influenced by the fact that was the first video where you had all the footage and stuff. So I could totally see that.
Yeah, I was very limited in the early days, since I was just downloading clips, and I didn't have all the footage at my disposal. Again, I was trying really hard not to use subtitled footage, although there was instances where I had to. But it really, really made my pool of available footage down to nothing. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to put this person talking here, even though it has nothing to do with the song. But I just need to fill this 10-second gap here. And once I got to the point where I could have my own footage and have everything at my disposal, it really, really opened up, kind of the horizon on what I could do, not only from an artistic endeavor, but just from a quality standpoint of how good the video could be.
Yeah, no, I could see that. And I mean, I gotta pull up this one personal thing just because, like, obviously me starting to edit in like the contemporary age or whatever, it's not hard to find footage for basically anything. Like if you go on any torrent track or anything, you can usually find pretty much anything with only like soft
Yeah, and
subs.
it's like the highest of high quality footage.
Yep.
If they're MKV files, you can get the subtitle files separate. You don't even need to have them in there.
Yep.
It is night and day. Like if I had come up during this era of AMVs, uh, I would feel like this is like the easiest thing in the world, like because it's just so easy to get what you want. Like in the early days, not necessarily when I was downloading the clips, but when you would, buy the DVDs and have to actually run them through all of these video processing apps and then having to run all of these scripts to get them to work in Adobe Premiere, and having to replace the original file, the raw, VOB files with, Huffy or MJPEG 2 versions of the files, and then doing a swap at the very end to get the highest quality possible. I mean, all of that was just a headache. But at that time, I mean, it seemed like a breakthrough in a way to go about making your videos look great.
Yeah.
But now you don't have to do any of that. It's just you download the high quality MP4, you plop it on your timeline, and you just go.
Yeah.
And a lot of the effects that people were doing manually, they're just preset.
Yeah.
They're preset templates in the software. Like I remember, especially in the video game AMVs I did, like the Punch Out and the Altered Beast video. I spent a lot of time like taking a lot of the backgrounds out on the sprites and removing, using green screen coloration. I would take the frames, import them into MS Paint, green out all of the background to only leave the silhouette of the person I wanted.
Yeah.
For every frame for maybe a 10-second span.
Oh my God.
Just to get 10 seconds of a transparency of having somebody dunking a ball with the video game footage going in the background. And that would take me hours.
Wow.
And now it's like you could do that in like 5 seconds.
Yep.
Just, with the apps that are out there.
Yeah.
It feels like a nirvana of AMV making.
Mm-hmm. And well, I mean, I do gotta say, I did have one experience where I did have to go through a bit of a rigmarole to get some footage. It was for this really obscure OVA called Blue Butterfly Fish. I had this really oceany song that I really wanted to make an AMV for, and I was looking through every ocean anime I could find, and none of them felt right except for this one that was only available on, I forget where, it was like Daily Motion or something, and it had hard-coded subs, and I tried to work around, and I was like, there's no way, like, they talk over so much. So I ended up tracking
were
down...
Were the subtitles like covering the whole screen to the point where you couldn't crop them? Like,
it was a substantial portion. Like, they were pretty big on the bottom and like yellow and stuff. I was just like, ugh, I don't like this. So I managed to track down a single Laserdisc copy from Japan, like just like through some bootleg like Laserdisc selling site. And
that is dedication.
I needed this footage, and it was pretty cheap. It was only like $15 to order it. So I was like, okay. So I bought it, and my dad just happened to have a Laserdisc player like laying around, and I was just like, well, I guess this is what I gotta do. So I hooked up a capture card, and I did it, and I was like, at the end of the day, I was like, I got this footage. Like, this is mine. It felt cool.
Yeah, that feeling of accomplishment is probably way different now than it is back then, because you can just download almost anything you want, right?
Yeah.
Back then, like especially for hentai AMVs, it was not easy to find whatever hentai you were looking for back then. They weren't as readily available. A lot of times, it's weird. Like Money Shot, for example, I made that video before the Bible Black DVDs were actually available to buy.
Oh yeah.
So I want to say I used Kaiser or something to download the Bible Black episodes just specifically for that AMV. And when I made it, and I submitted it to ACON, the Dallas convention, and it won that award, I went to the dealer's room, and in the dealer's room, one of the guys that licensed Bible Black was there. And I was talking to him, and he was, saying, "Yeah, I was there at the showing. I loved your video. It was great." And he said, he was showing me where the DVDs were, and he said, "Hey, I have all of those DVDs if you ever wanted to remaster those, because I really liked how it came out." And it was funny because I mentioned during our conversation how I came about getting that footage,
Yeah.
and the conversation kind of turned a little bit when I mentioned, I downloaded the footage, and that's how I ended up getting it. And he's like, "Well, you can change that now," and he's kind of pointing at the DVDs, like wanting me to buy them,
Yeah.
retroactively. I was like, "Well, I kind of don't need it anymore," but I ended up getting it just in case. You never know if you may. I don't really go to the well more than once on a lot of animes. Once I make a video using a specific anime, I'm kind of done with it. Unless it's a multi-editor project where I'm just making a little segment.
Yeah.
And those Bible Black DVDs ended up paying off because I ended up using them to make some of those mini clips for AMV Hell Zero. So I guess it paid off, but he more guilted me into buying them than anything.
That's really funny. Oh man, yeah, AMVs. Was it something like, this is kind of a tangent now? So if you have any closing words on AMVs while we're still here, if there's anything else you wanted to say about them, that'd be good, because I kind of got a different thing we could talk about.
Yeah, like I will say that time period from 2000 to 2006 was one of the funnest times of my life. Not only with the editing, because editing, it's very time consuming depending on how much effort you put into it, right? Like, and it can be kind of a pain, especially if you've got other things going on in your life, work and stuff like that,
Yeah.
family. But the feeling of accomplishment when you finish something and you show it to your friends and you release it, on the forum, and you wait for that feedback, and when you actually submit it to a convention, that feeling of pride after making something like that you did all on your own after hours and hours of struggle and strife is just there's nothing like it from a feelings. I would imagine, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but I would imagine it's how like a musician feels after they've made a song and made an album. Like it's something similar. I love that time frame because of the feeling of accomplishment I had, and because from a community standpoint, AMV editors were some of the nicest and funniest people I ever met, and I met a lot of them in person, and they were all. Sometimes people come off kind of jerkish in forums, sometimes kind of snobbish, but when you meet them in person, it's never like that.
Yeah,
people are always so nice. I did not have one bad in-person encounter with anybody I ever met on AMV.org or just AMVs in general. It was an awesome time.
That's awesome.
And actually, I don't know if you know this, but during that time frame, one of my best friends now, and he was a really good friend of mine back then, who actually gave me my first version of Adobe Premiere. He actually burned the software and gave it to me, and that's what I used.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there was a lot of bootlegging going on early in my AMV journey. His name was Carlos Corral. He ran Mind Warp Entertainment Studios. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. He has some very, very famous AMVs. The Naruto one, the whatever, United States of whatever AMV. You ever seen that one? Yeah, he did that one. He did one called I forgot the actual name of it, but it was a Korn Dead Bodies Everywhere AMV that had nothing but killing and death. And he made that one too. That's probably one of his most popular videos ever. But at that time, me and him actually started making anime convention documentaries that are out there.
Oh yeah.
We made a documentary of the Yushikon experience. It was about 30 minutes long. And we made an Akon documentary, which is probably an hour or two long, actually. And it kind of showed what that experience was like. I don't know. Have you ever gone to an anime convention?
I've been to a few.
I know there's a big one in Canada. One of the guys that was really big and really active in the AMV community, his name is Vlad G. Ponert.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Have you heard of him?
I think so,
He
yeah.
he has some very very famous AMVs. He ran the video art track at AWA for a little while too,
Mm.
but he's Canadian, and I think he ran uh, uh, an anime convention, or at least the video part of it, uh, in Canada. I forgot the name of it, but he was a big mentor to a lot of AMV editors, and he made some of the most famous AMVs out there. Uh, but he, when it comes to conventions and kind of the life of it, uh, those documentaries, even though I'm sure he's not proud of some of his antics, Carlos, they were some of the funnest and funniest times, and it's all on footage and documented. And it kind of shows you the ins and outs of not only the AMV community, but just the anime community, which I think is an awesome community.
Yeah.
Um, so he probably doesn't have them up for download anywhere, because he actually ran for councilman of his city a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I was joking with him, and if that footage ever came out, because I have copies of all those documentaries, yeah, your opponent would probably use it against you, and kind of make you not turn out to be the guy that people would want to vote for.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, he has me pretty much locked in that I can never release any of that footage.
That's like a time capsule now. Like that's so cool.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. It was definitely, you watch it and you're like, oh yeah, I remember 2003. That was such a good time. Like
yeah.
it's very much a time capsule of what was going on during that time.
Hmm. Yeah. It's so great that you mentioned the sense of pride you get when making an AMV. Like, it really is a form of artistry, and like it's the worst when people are like, "Well, you didn't make the music, you didn't make the footage," and it's like, well, like a painter doesn't mend the canvas or whatever. He doesn't make that. Like, it's like it's whatever you use to express yourself, and it's still a form of artistry, regardless of whatever the preconceptions are.
I think a lot of people kind of have that opinion that AMVs are kind of a lazy art form,
Hmm.
because you're not creating the video, you're not creating the audio, you're basically just being a remixer of something that already exists. And I cannot disagree more, because you're taking those things and you're building something completely different.
Hmm.
And there is a lot of thought and work that gets put into making something that you can actually be proud of.
Hmm.
I mean, there's always going to be examples where people just throw stuff together and
Yeah.
call it an AMV. But if you really go back and look at the most popular AMVs, the ones that stood the test of time, uh, you can see all of the work they put in, especially if you're another editor.
Yeah.
Um, like one of the most famous AMVs of all time is one called Euphoria
Yeah.
by Kupaskiva, Jay Nailing, who actually Jay Nailing is part of he was part of our anime music video studio, Random Destination Productions.
Hmm.
um, he actually joined it before he made Euphoria,
Oh.
and we all felt like it was a huge coup. Like, man, we bought early on this stock, and look at how it's turned into Apple. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, because he became one of the greatest and most influential AMV editors of all time.
Hmm.
But yeah, he is actually in our production. If you go to randomdestinations.net or whatever it is, he is listed as one of our AMV editors, and it was a production studio created by me and a guy named Jonathan Watson, who's AD Amante on AMV.org, and Brian Nickerson, who is Rosard on AMV.org. We created it initially, and we were recruiting AMV editors, and we actually had open tryouts. And he said, "Well, if you want to be part of our," because at that time, like I mentioned before, there wasn't a lot of people just giving away hosting of your videos and bandwidth.
Yeah.
It was expensive. I mean, people were spending, $50 a month to have their website up, and be able to upload files and have them downloaded. And they did not take kindly to really high spikes in bandwidth, if they noticed that you were sharing something too much, they looked for ways to get out of it. And if they saw that you were hosting copyrighted material, which is what they considered AMVs to be, you got a cease and desist and cancellation on your hosting service right away. But Jonathan was hosting it off of his own server, so it was a big, I guess, prize to people to be able to host their videos somewhere that wasn't a third party hosting. It was somebody hosting it themselves.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of people that tried out, and Coop, Jay Nailing, was one of them. And it was before he made Euphoria. We accepted him because he made another video, an Evangelion video. I forgot the name of it, but it was like it was called like Ray Damaged Remix.
Yeah, that's Season's favorite AMV, the one AMV critic or whatever. It's I saw it because of that.
Yeah. Jay submitted that video as his tryout for being a part of our studio, and it was a very, very close decision. It was him and another guy named Kirk Fryer. His AMV.org name was Pyromaniac.
Yeah.
And he actually made a really famous video, but it wasn't an AMV. He made the Family Guy video with Mortal Kombat. Have you seen that one?
I don't think so.
It's a very popular video. Like if you go on YouTube and you do a search for Family Guy, Mortal Kombat, there's going to be tons of hits that you're going to get.
Yeah.
It's a very famous video, but he tried out also, and we almost took him instead of Coop, because we knew him. He was somebody that we had more interaction with. We didn't really know Jay all that well. He was in Chicago, and we were all in Texas, so we'd never met him in person. We were kind of just taking a flyer based on the video quality, and his we thought was a little bit better than Pi's. So we had to give Pi the bad news, and obviously he went on to make that popular Family Guy video. But Jay turned around maybe a couple of months after he got brought into the fold in our studio. He made Euphoria, and it became one of the greatest AMVs of all time. Like if you go at the ranking of AMV.org based on their scores and their reviews and stuff, it's got to be up there, top 10 probably.
Yeah.
So that became a huge coup for us because the rest of us kind of sucked. So to land a superstar like that, it's like getting LeBron on your team.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, can't believe he's going to carry us to the promised land, whatever that was.
Oh man, and that's because I never even really considered, like, when I first got into AMVs, seeing like studios and stuff like that. I was just kind of like, what's the like I didn't see why it was such a big thing. I was like, well, what's the benefits you get from this? But they give that in terms of the hosting stuff and just like,
that was the main thing.
Yeah.
Most people, they would fly solo, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, it was expensive. This was before AMV.org was hosting AMVs. They were, like I said, they were just kind of a catalog website. So people had to pay for their own hosting if they wanted to get their video seen by anybody. This was way before YouTube. So the benefit of joining a studio is that, maybe one person is paying for the service and everybody would just pitch in. And instead of paying, $50 a month, maybe everybody's only paying 10.
Yeah.
To get your files and your videos hosted, and it was, and also not only that, but it was also kind of a nice networking opportunity and have kind of a group of people that would help each other. Like, if you're part of a studio, if maybe you need a specific anime, maybe one of the other people in your studio has it.
Yeah.
They're more than willing to say, okay, well, let me send you the DVD, or let me rip the DVD and send you the file or something.
Yeah.
Back then, a lot of times people were sharing, before peer to peer, they would just set up a transfer queue in AIM chat, and 2 days later, maybe you would have a whole episode of something or a whole anime movie. But that's how we would kind of share footage if we all had different ideas. And sometimes we would be in AIM chats together as a group and just throw out ideas, some of the things we're working on. give betas, get feedback on some of the early betas that you were working on. There was a lot of other things outside of the hosting that kind of made it appealing.
Yeah.
Being able to get all of that feedback too.
Mm-hmm. Damn. Yeah. Something in particular I just got to ask about AMVs, just because this was the video that kind of like alerted me to the fact that I had to talk to you, was that Video Girl I video with the NXS song. And like I saw that and it just blew my mind. And then when I saw in the description it was made in 2003, I was just like, oh my god. So just, this is my selfish, using this time. What was the inspiration behind that video? And do you have anything like to talk about there? Because that video just blew me away.
Yeah, so it's funny. I have 2 videos in my catalog that were made specifically for somebody else. They're, in both instances, I was enamored with a girl that was another. In both instances, there was a girl. There were girls that I was talking to online that were other AMV editors that I was infatuated with. And that specific video, the NXS video, I was actually engaged to that girl.
Oh wow!
But she lived in Florida. I lived in Texas. Her name was Brandy.
Yeah.
Her AMV.org name was Tutterbutter on AMV.org. But the year before, I had made a different video. It was the Oh My Goddess movie video with the Bee Gees song, How Deep Is Your Love?
Yeah.
For a different girl. Her name was Kat. And at the beginning, I don't know if you saw that video or not, but
yeah.
At the beginning of it, there's a little audio recording of her saying, hey, I love you or whatever, something like that, right? That was actually a voicemail she had left me. And I put that at the beginning, and then, the video is all sappy and stuff. I get a lot of hell from a lot of my friends for that one, because I went from making all of these hardcore porn videos to making this sappy romance video, which is completely out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I made that video for her, and we never even met each other. We never did. None of it worked out. I mean, she was in a relationship with somebody else. It was just more kind of an in the time infatuation.
Mm-hmm.
But the year after, when I started talking to Brandy, she actually started talking to me because she had seen that video I had made for the other girl.
Oh, the Bee Gees.
And kind of thought it was like a sweet gesture, and it was really romantic. And I think that's what kind of reeled her in to want to, talk to me, thinking I was this sweet guy. Which, obviously I was pretending the whole time. But so as our relationship grew, and I actually went and I visited her in Florida a couple of times, and then in one of the documentaries that we did, that me and Carlos Corral did, we did a documentary where we were at Anime Week in Atlanta. And there is, at that convention, I proposed to her during an AMV panel that me and Tim Stair were hosting in the VAT room.
Yeah.
Because we actually, at that time, more Tim than me, but we were popular enough to where the convention said, okay, we're going to give you a 2-hour block to talk about whatever you want to talk about and show whatever videos you want to show.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this would be a great opportunity for me to get a wedding ring, have her come on stage in front of, 100 people or however many people were in there at the time, and, propose and get down on a knee and everything. It's actually part of one of the documentaries.
Oh my God.
Which none of those are uploaded anywhere, thank goodness, but because it's really embarrassing. It wasn't long after that we broke up, and it was funny when we broke up. I had already quit my job. I had already rented a U-Haul, and I had broken my lease. To live in Florida, and maybe a couple of days before I was set to drive the U-Haul and move all of my stuff into it, I got an email or something from her saying, hey, I don't think I can do this. I'm going to go live with my parents in Maryland. So, good luck with whatever you have going on. So that whole thing fell through. And again, it's another one of those videos that my friends give me hell for, because it's a time period in my life that I am very embarrassed about, because I jumped through all of these hoops, and
Yeah.
did all of this stuff for her just to pull the rug out from under me. It was a mess. But that video, I made it because during some of the time that we were talking to each other, she would bring up the other video I made for the other girl.
Yeah.
And be like, well, I mean, you must have really cared a lot about her. You took the time to actually make her this video. I don't see any video for me. So I was almost forced.
You got reeled in
to make that video. And it was during the time of, I want to say, the second iteration of the video game projects. So I had to take time away from that to make this sappy romance video, which I'm being forced to do just out of guilt because of everything that we're talking about. The other coordinators of the video game projects were not happy with me. They said, you know what, instead of working on my videos, which are due in a month because they have to, we have to have them done in a certain time period in order for the convention to accept them.
Yeah, like for the deadline,
and have a block of time devoted to it.
Yeah.
So I was on a very tight schedule. So they're all waiting for me, asking me every day, okay, so what's the status on your video? Because I need to know when I can start compiling all of the videos together.
Yeah.
And I have to tell them, well, I'm making this video that Brandy wants me to make. And, I'll get to that other video in maybe a week or two. Like, and they were very, very disappointed in me.
You broke the bros before hose law, man. How could you?
I absolutely. Tim Stair and I were really close friends at that time, and we kind of drifted apart. He lives in Seattle and he's married and stuff, so he's kind of out of the A&B scene. But during that time, we talked to each other every day because we were giving each other updates on not just our own personal videos that we were contributing to that project. We were also in charge of quality control and all the other videos and all the other betas, and working with people on their concepts. It was a lot of work, and I would say that was one of the things that really put a little bit of a wedge between us, that I was working on all of these other non-project related things, and that video was definitely one of them, and he was not happy. He was not happy about it, but she was thrilled about the video. In fact, she turned around and made a video for me in response to the one I made for her. It turned into a gigantic sappy love fest kind of deal, which ended up turning into us not even being with each other, and like I said, pulling the rug out from under me, days before I was supposed to change my entire life and live in Florida, and which is thousands and thousands of miles away from Texas.
Yeah. It's a funny title now. Never tear us apart. Well,
yeah. The name of the video is called Siempre Juntos, which is Spanish for always together, and so it was the exact opposite of what that video was representing. At the end of the video, I don't know if you ever made it to the credits, but there's a little thing that says, "Love forever, Mrs. MJ" or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, that's what she would call herself. Like, she went with me to, or I'm not gonna say went with me. We would meet at Anime Weekend Atlanta. I think there was 2 years where we did that. And she would, as we would be walking around and talking to other editors, she would refer to herself as Mrs. MJ, which is what everybody called me instead of just calling me MexicanJunior. They said, "Hey, MJ, how's it going?" They shortened it, so she would refer to herself as Mrs. MJ, and that's why that note at the end says that.
Wow, you're crazy.
So yeah, it wasn't as glamorous a story as you probably thought.
That's even better, man. I mean, it's not better for you, but the lore of it, there's something magic about that. That's great.
And I probably spent, like, in actual editing and stuff and concept, thoughts and things. It probably took me about 2 weeks maybe to make that one.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, again, I had such a weird moment with that video because I was listening to the Donnie Darko director's commentary, And like that song plays in the opening. I was like, man, I love this freaking song. And then I looked up AMVs, and yours was like the 4th result. And I was just like, oh, Video Girl I just seen that recently. And I was like, let's go. And I don't know, it just took me for a ride. But that's really funny knowing the backstory. And
yeah, the source footage selection was mainly only because somebody had given me, I think I actually won it, the Video Girl AI OVA DVDs. Mm-hmm. I think I had won some AMV contests, and back then they would give you, in addition to a trophy, they would give you DVDs and stuff, or maybe give you vouchers for the dealer room, like maybe $100 voucher to go get whatever you want from the dealer room.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that I don't see why I would have bought that video out of my own free will. I'm pretty sure it was part of some AMV contest winning package.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I used that footage, was because it was the only real sappy, romancy anime that I had at that time, that in DVD format. So it's the only reason I used it.
well, the sad, sappy bastards of the world thank you for it. That's all I got to say about it.
Now, I will say, from a technical standpoint, I did put a lot of work into the beat sync on that one.
Yeah.
There was a lot of transparency work I did.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
Recall. And the end with him going up the glass steps and breaking.
Yeah.
That footage was really hard to work with, because in the DVD, that footage is hard subbed.
Oh, really?
So if you'll
with the
notice,
lyrics to the song in the background?
Yeah, the lyrics of the song. Yeah. It wasn't like a separate subtitle file that I could extract or exclude.
Oh, man.
It was hard coded into the footage. So I had to crop it out and resize the video. So if you'll notice, and some people think that it was like an artistic choice I made to make the footage look a little, I don't know, I don't want to say pixelated, but you could tell the aspect ratio is off, and there's interlacing, and people think that was like an intended effect.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's just that I cropped all of the lyrics out of that video, and I resized it, and I didn't deinterlace it properly. So it's kind of got like a little weird, I don't know, image to it.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was so cool.
People liked it.
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't on purpose. It was just it was a technical error on my part.
Oh, that's so awesome. Oh my god. Yeah, because I was thinking about, because I've been through Video Girl I, because I was planning on doing a video for it, so I've been shot through it, so I knew what those things look like. And I was like, man, this guy's getting like subtextual here. He's getting creative, doing like messing with the interlacing and stuff, but it's just necessity. Yeah. That's so funny.
It was all just bad interlacing.
Oh, that's so awesome. I was getting a little worried earlier when you said you made 2 videos for girls, and I was just like, if he says tub girl for the other one, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what I got to say to this guy.
No, in fact, the one of the things that drew me to the girl that I made the NXS video for is she was a huge hentai fan, and she loved. At that time, I had only made Money Shots, and she loved Money Shots.
Oh man!
And I was like, oh man, how can I not, close the deal with this chick? I mean, she loves hentai. She loves all my videos. She loves my nastiest video I've ever made.
Yeah.
I mean, how can I say no to this? I think that's one of the reasons why, we became so infatuated with each other.
Yeah.
I didn't make it for her, but it was definitely one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to try and keep our relationship going.
Yeah. Wow. Now I gotta know, was there any of your videos made in the aftermath of that? Like, was there any...
Yes.
Yeah.
So in 2004, after we had kind of broken up, and even after that incident where she didn't want me to come down to Florida after I made all these plans.
Yeah.
We still talk to each other online, trying to figure out what happened and seeing if maybe there could be any kind of reconciliation. Between mid 2003 and mid 2004, and around 2004, once things started getting more and more apparent that I'm getting screwed over here, I was angry, and that was one of the I guess, inspirations to the Psycho
I
Killer
was about to say, like, I was like,
AMV.
that's gotta be the one. Like,
I
right?
felt really distraught, and I actually went into the AMV.org chat. They had an IRC channel, uh, and a lot of editors would go in there and hang out and share betas and just talk about whatever. And I went in there and I said, "Hey, uh, what is the like one of the most? I'm feeling really angry. Is Can you guys recommend me like a really violent, over the top anime? I feel like creating something really violent." And it was there was an editor. It's a girl. Her name on the org, I want to say, is Aqua Sky. She was a really popular editor. I think right now she's actually like a Twitch streamer or something.
Oh yeah.
But she was the one that said, "Yeah, you should check out, this Itchy the Killer anime." And I had heard of Itchy the Killer the movie.
Yeah, like the Miike film. Yeah.
Yeah, but I had never heard of the anime, and it was kind of like a prequel to the movie, kind of showing the backstory of the guy. I said, "Okay, I'll check it out." And it's a very short OVA, maybe an hour or two. So it wasn't a lot of footage for me to have to comb through.
Yeah.
And so I said, "Okay, this would be a good fit with this song." And I want to say I worked on it a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Again, another video that I worked on instead of the video game projects. So that
comes back, man.
Yeah, like it's funny because those video game projects, we would have the concept and the idea of what we wanted to do right after the premiere of it the year before.
Yeah.
So like we would make these projects with the sole intent of having them premiere at Anime Week in Atlanta, because that was the biggest anime AMV convention out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So we would spend all this time working on it. We would release premiere it, and then we also would shop it to other conventions. We had it show at Anime Expo in Los Angeles, which is another big one, AX. And then right after that, maybe we would take a month or two off, and then we would start getting to work on the next one. And say, okay, what do we want to do for part 2? Instead of just Nintendo remixes, let's open it up to Sega and Super Nintendo and TurboGrafx 16, whatever everybody wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And we would say, okay, well, we're at the beginning of the year, let's say in January, let's start working on these videos, and we need to have them all kind of finished and compiled, sometime in August, because Anime Week in Atlanta was always in September.
Mm-hmm.
So we had like 8 months. So in that time span, when I'm supposed to be working on these videos, I know that the coordinators wanted me to work on those first, but those always ended up being the last ones I worked on, finishing them up right before August, and it's also in the middle of football season. So like they would reach out to me during, Cowboy games and stuff. I'm like, I can't work on it. I'm in the middle of a Cowboy game. Leave me alone. Like football season took priority. At that time, I was big into playing Madden on Xbox. So like they would reach out to me, hey, how's your video coming? I don't know. I'm in the middle of a Madden season. I don't have time for that right now.
Yeah.
So in any video I worked on and finished in that time frame that I should have been working on those project videos was always a huge point of contention for the other coordinators. Like,
yeah.
You're setting a bad example for all the other people that were wanting to have their videos finished first, when the actual head of the project is the one that is procrastinating the most on what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I know. It's, I don't know. I'm very scatterbrained sometimes. Sometimes I'll get sudden inspiration and I'll want to work on it for like 2 weeks and just forget about everything else. That's kind of, I think a lot of AMV editors are like that.
Yeah.
Things kind of just inspire you out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, I want to work on this and forget about everything else. That I could have another AMV that I was working on 95% done.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden something else, some other idea will come up, and I'm like, you know what? Forget that 95% video. I'm going to work on this one for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll get 50% done on that one, and then some other AMV idea will pop up in my head, and then I'll work on a third video with the 95% video and the 50% video just kind of sitting out there in the waiting queue.
Yeah.
just all over the place sometimes.
Yeah, and well, because like I think it's a medium born so much out of just like, serendipitous like combinations. It's like you're feeling a song one day and then you think of an anime. It's just like that's it. Like I gotta chase that. And I mean, hey, it worked out. Like I mean, although the people at the time were probably hoping you'd get on the multi-editor projects. I mean, what made me reach out to you was a video that you just did on a whim, and then the other videos I was showing
that I got
friends.
guilted into making.
Which is that's so funny, man. Like I can't get over that. It's so good. But yeah, I mean, like you just gotta chase the vibe, and like it worked out. It worked out in the end. I mean, just because you followed what you had to do. That's so good.
Yeah, like sometimes it's almost like a fear that you'll lose the idea. Like you'll be driving one day, you're listening to music, and then something will just pop in your head, and it's such a good idea to you at the time that you get scared that you're going to forget or lose the drive to work on it.
Yeah.
So you just have to, as soon as you get home, you just got to start the project files. You got to start compiling the source footage.
Yep.
Because you don't want to forget it, and you don't want to lose the feeling you had when you thought of what it could be if you put the time and work into it.
Yeah.
That's really what drives a lot of people, and it drove me at that time for sure.
I can't count like how many projects I'm just like, but I got stuff going on tonight. I'll just put it off, and like I'll come back to it like a few days later. I'm just like, why did I even think this was such a good idea? Even though I know if I would have chased it at the time, I could have had a video by the end that would have been something.
Oh man, the amount of abandoned projects and betas of unfinished videos could fill a museum. Like I have a folder on my hard drive of just unfinished betas and mini videos, and it's probably about 50 files in there of things that I started on and just never got around to finishing. There's a lot of Iron Chef videos in there too. I don't know if you were familiar with that concept, but in the early to mid 2000s, a lot of people were doing these Iron Chef contests where they would say, okay, we're going to give you 2 hours, you make the best video you can in 2 hours. And sometimes they would give you the source footage and the song to use. They would actually have tournaments and like March Madness style brackets. I competed in like 3 of them. I never got past the second round, but because there's editors way faster and way better than me. It normally takes me a lot of time to kind of get something to the point where I feel good about it.
Yeah.
So the 2 hour rush jobs were really hard for me to master. But even conventions, they had live Iron Chefs going where the editors would edit against each other in real time in person. So I probably have maybe 6 or 7 of those, not just the amv.org built ones, but like a lot of times people would get in the IRC chat or the AIM chats for amv.org and just challenge each other and say, hey, let's do an Iron Chef. Why don't me and so-and-so do something? Give us a source and a song and give us 2 hours, and then you guys we'll upload the files and you guys tell us who wins. It could be really informal like that sometimes.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Well, like, and I know you feel about like spending more time on projects, because for me, I'm always so paranoid if I haven't been shot for shot through the source I'm using. Like the start of every video for me is I go through the thing and just cut up every shot, because I'm just always so nervous that I'll forget something if it's just in a big chunk of video or something. I'm just like, oh, maybe that shot would work great there or something. So that's always like a big part of the process for me when I'm making those sort of videos.
Yeah, like my workflow usually is at that time I would print out the lyrics and I would say, okay, these are the lyrics that I'm going to try and highlight in my footage. And I would take a pass through the source material. And I don't know if you noticed, but like in a lot of my AMVs are not long series. A lot of them are movies, OVAs, limited amounts of episodes, because I just didn't have the patience to sit through like, maybe 3 seasons, 72 episodes of whatever show to try and find the right footage. I just couldn't do it. So a lot of my AMVs revolve strictly around really small amounts of time, like 2-hour movies and things like that. But I would take a pass through that footage just to try and find the things that are highlighted in the lyrics.
Oh.
And I would cut up those clips and put them in a separate folder in Adobe Premiere. Then I would take a second pass through the footage and look for things that I think would flow with the flow of the song.
Oh, okay.
And then there was if I knew that the song had a lot of drum hits and it was going to require a lot of beat sync.
Yeah.
I would look for specific scenes that I thought would make for good strobing effect. So maybe white background silhouetted anime characters that I think would really accentuate with black strobes.
Yeah.
Or inverts, things like that. I would also look for scenes that had one color backgrounds. Like I noticed in I think one of your Eva videos, you pinpointed scenes that had maybe white backgrounds, and then you took the white away, and had stuff going behind it.
Yep.
I did a lot of things like that as well during my scans of the source. Look for things that I could make into effects using transparency work. Look for things that would really be accentuated with strobing, or invert, color invert. Anything that I thought from a movement standpoint would look good with a blur, or any kind of blur effect. Those were the things I was looking for as I scanned footage. But the first pass was always something dedicated to the lyrics because, like I said, I'm a big lyric sync guy.
That's smart. Yeah, I could see that.
I'm big on organization. So like whenever I would, cut the clips and put them into separate folders, I really tried to be specific with the file names and say, okay, this is episode so-and-so, 15 minutes in, blah, 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 and try and be as descriptive as possible with the file itself. So I know what it was.
Yeah.
Because I'm a stickler for organization, I guess. So I can't work in kind of an environment where things are kind of just thrown together.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to explain, but like I really struggle if things aren't really labeled and outlined. It's all part of my weird process, I guess.
Yeah, no, and I totally relate to that. And that was what kind of kept me out of AMVs for a while, because I was just like, well, how do people know? Like, how do they know that shot works well with that? Like if you just have this big block of footage, and it's like, oh, well, if you take the time to kind of separate it, then it's so much easier, And that was kind of what helped me get into it at first.
And that's also one of the things that has kept me from, I guess, restarting AMVs is I remember the amount of work it took to organize everything, timeline everything out, and it just feels so intimidating now. There's been a couple of times that I went and found footage and had a concept in mind. I don't have Adobe Premiere anymore because they went to a subscription model. Like the version of Adobe Premiere I was using back when I was really editing heavily, I had Adobe Premiere 6.5, and which was during the Windows XP time period. And obviously Windows XP is 10 operating systems behind or something right now. So you can't use it anymore on current machines. And so I said, okay, I was curious one time, and I said, okay, well, let me get whatever the newest version of Adobe Premiere is, and see how it works, and if it looks a lot different, the UI is any different. And it's a subscription based model that they went to. It's not easy where you can just download the software and install it like it was back then. And they charge you like $20 a month or something. I was like, I don't know that I have the follow through to be willing to spend $20 a month on something I may never finish. And that really put me off on making AMVs using Adobe Premiere. So I went and I downloaded Magic's Pro movie editor, and I mainly use it for podcast editing. I'm the primary editor for my podcast. So it's really easy to use for that, but there has been a couple of times where I said, I wonder how this would work, from an AMV standpoint, and I'll import the footage and I'll start looking at the timeline, start trying to, cut the clips on what I would want to use to make my concept work. And maybe an hour or two in, I'm like, is it really worth it? Do I really want to invest the time and the effort into this? And after a while, it just turns into like, would anybody even care? Like, I know you're supposed to make AMVs for yourself. That's what everybody says. That's the kind of the default tagline.
Mm-hmm.
But it does matter if you spend, I don't know, a month on something and you upload it and you put it everywhere you can, social media, whatever, AMV forums, and you just crickets. It's like, man, why did I even bother? Like,
I know that. Oh,
the thought of that is so daunting that
mm-hmm.
it can get anybody to just surrender, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the worst part is like in the cutting up process, it's like in this middle ground where you have to be thinking creatively. Like you have to be thinking, oh, this shot I can use with this lyric and this part, and so like you are using the creative aspect there, but it's also so boring and mechanical where it's like, okay, cut, move, export, categorize, and so it's just in this weird gray area where it's like using a part of your brain, but it's not gratifying, and it's just, it really is the worst part.
Yeah, the math equation part of editing, it can be so tiring. Like it's just like trying to figure out, okay, how many frames do I need to get to this drum beat?
Mm-hmm.
How many frames do I have before the tempo changes and I need to switch over to a different scene? How long of a fade out do I need to cover this 20 seconds? Like it all becomes very mathy, and I'm not a big math guy, so that part of it too is kind of tough, especially with action videos. It not so much with like the romance and savvy videos that I made, or even the ones that just kind of flow. Like there's some videos I have that are not necessarily so much about beat sync and more. It's just more about how the song feels.
Yeah, but that's what I thought was so good about the Keys Delivery Service video. It's just like I can't even pinpoint what works between the song and the footage you use, but it all has this vibe, it all flows together. I thought
that one was a lot of straight cuts because that one was one of the first videos I made in Premiere, and I wasn't really comfortable yet with using the little rubber bands to move things up and down.
Yeah.
But when I do have like strobing and stuff, it is very jarring. Like because the video itself is more just almost straight cuts and just flow of the song.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this 3-second drum solo kicks in and there's strobing going on. As a viewer, I would imagine people being like, "Whoa, what is this? Like, you've just completely killed the vibe here." Like, I don't know.
But personally, I didn't think you killed the vibe. But I can see what you're saying, though. It is like
if I was watching that video outside of myself,
mm-hmm.
and I was like getting into the feel of the video, and I saw that little drum solo and those strobes, I'd be like, "Whoa, what is this?" Like, also that video too, I used a lot of sync with blinks. Like a lot of the different song, the tempo changes and the drums. Anytime there was a hit, I would use an eye blink. To kind of accentuate it. And I actually used that effect, or not an effect, but I guess that style of beat sync in a different video too, in my Spirited Away video.
Yeah, the Soul Seek,
Yeah, that one I did the same thing. I used a lot of eye blinks to kind of accentuate the beats in the song. But it almost felt cheap the second time I did it. Like the first time I did it, it felt like, I think people are going to really think this is cool, even though some people don't even notice it. But I definitely did that on purpose. But the second time I did it, which there's probably a 5-year gap between the Kiki video and the Spirited Away video, and it almost felt cheap the second time. And it's like you're going back to the well out of almost laziness.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It left a bad taste in my mouth. but people really, a lot of people really liked it for some reason.
No, that's a really good video. I was thinking, I used eye blinks a couple times. I did this one video, which I don't know what I think of it anymore, but it was my third video. I did a Slint song. I don't know if you ever heard of the band Slint.
No, I haven't.
Really weird, like kind of abrasive, like kind of hardcore rock, but like they got slower stuff. And so I had this 8 minute depressing as hell song, like it's so sad, to K-On, like the stupid slice of life girl band show. And I had to make this really happy show seem like the saddest thing in the world. And so I used a lot of like establishing shots taken out of context, like really weird things. But because I had like, even though it's like a 26 episode series or something, I had a lot of raw footage, but like when I pared it down, I didn't have a lot to work with, so I used a lot of those sort of like eye syncs, or like I would stretch out a shot, and when there was like one little piece of movement in a scene, I would just kind of sync that up just to make it seem like things were still happening and it wasn't a slideshow. And it's just funny how those techniques just kind of seep through when you're
and speaking of that style of editing, all of the speed downs, speeds
Yep.
up to try and get it to fit with whatever audio you're using. Oh my god.
Yep.
The nightmares of and then also when you do that, interlacing becomes a problem sometimes. Like if you slow it back then, at least I don't know what it's like now. But, if you slow a video clip down, it gets really pixely and you lose frames and stuff. And the amount of hell I had trying to get the video to slow while also making it not look like shit.
Yeah.
It was just, oh my god.
There's so many, like I've
having PTSD now.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I always go. It's like a toolbox technique. So, okay, I have this shot. I got to slow down. Okay, what I can do is I can stretch the footage. I can freeze frame at a certain point. I can reverse it.
I could reverse it. Yeah, I could mirror it. Like...
Yeah, it's like there's so many little tricks. It's because like it's so annoying. Because like if you were directing like a movie, you always film more before and after of what you need. You know, because you know you're gonna edit it. But when you're making an AMV, like you have this much footage. Like there is
you're beholden to whatever they decided to do.
Yeah,
you don't have an overhead shot and a side shot and a first person viewpoint, and
you got no coverage.
I was actually involved in a movie in 2005. I was part of the crew that was helping work on it, and we would refilm the same scenes from so many different angles to try and get as many different perspectives as possible. Specifically for that, because we knew we were going to have to be cutting in and out to different scenarios, different perspectives, and it's just so different than getting stuck with this source as is and having to make it work with all of these tricks, like you said. Maybe I'll inverse it. Maybe I'll change the coloring scheme. Maybe I'll do this to make it look like I didn't just rehash the same scene over and over again.
Yep.
So it's such a different kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of that movie experience, I remember I listened to the last episode you posted on your podcast, and you brought that up. And what was that like, working on a quote unquote real movie? Like what was that?
I wouldn't necessarily call it real. It was an independent movie. It was actually the same AMV editor that was doing the documentaries.
Oh, really?
Carlos Corral, the Mind Warp Entertainment.
Yeah.
He ended up becoming a director for a little while in El Paso, and in 2005. I got laid off from my job, and I had a lot of free time. That in the mid 2005, after I got let go, there was about 6 months where I traveled more than I had ever traveled. I went to Canada, I went to Pittsburgh, I went to Los Angeles, went to Atlanta, went to Florida, and I went to El Paso to help Carlos with that movie. I was there about 2 weeks, and this was like his first or second movie, I think, that he had done direction on, and he was doing direction, he was doing audio, holding the boom mics. We wrote the parts of the script together. It was a lot of fun. I'm actually listed as a co-producer. I'm actually on IMDb.
Nice.
For that movie.
But
I didn't pay the dues, so I can't upload my photo or anything, because you have to pay, I want to say like $100 a year to actually edit IMDb. But it was a lot of fun. Those 2 weeks in El Paso filming that movie were some of the funnest times I ever had, and it also introduced me to the game of Texas Hold'em,
Mm-hmm.
which I became absolutely obsessed with after that happened, to the point where I went to the World Series of Poker this year. Like,
Yeah, I saw on your Twitter. Yeah, yeah. You just.
yeah, like I became so infatuated that I learned everything I could about the game. I have several books I've read. The Doyle Brunson Super System book was one of the biggest influences on me, and I used to think I was a pretty good player until I got humbled at the World Series of Poker, and I realized there's a completely different tier of poker player than just your normal home game
Yeah.
players that I had grown accustomed to. I used to think that I was good enough to just be able to walk into any home game or even casino,
Yeah.
sit down at a 1-2 cash table or 1-3 cash table and do well. But man, you go and you play with the pros. It's a very humbling experience, to say the
Yeah.
least. It's totally different.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, like, how was it this year? Like, how did you do?
I lost a lot of money.
Oh.
I went with the sole intent of playing the main event, the $10,000 buy-in
Yeah.
tournament. But when I got there, I got the main event started on a Thursday, and I got there on a Saturday, the Saturday before. And I said, well, let me try some of these other lower buy-in tournaments first at the World Series. So I bought into the $600 deep stack tournament, and I lasted maybe 6 hours, and it's a 3-day tournament, so it wasn't. I didn't last very long.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I didn't feel like I was playing poorly. I was making the proper decisions. I was just there was times where I got unlucky, or times that I had a good hand and somebody just had a better one, and I just didn't read the situation right. So it didn't really discourage me the first tournament. The second tournament was $1,000 buy-in tournament.
Yeah.
It was called the Mini Main, and that was like a day or two after. And I said, okay, well, let me try this one. And I only lasted about 2 hours in a 3-day tournament,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 3 hours. And that one, again, it didn't really feel like I was making the wrong decisions. It just felt like I was running into better hands. I was just not reading the situation as well as I could have.
Mm.
And that one really discouraged me. And then I said, okay, well, let me try some of these non-World Series of Poker tournaments, because in Vegas there's tournaments at every casino on the Strip.
Yeah.
You can go and buy a $200 one. There's $500 ones. So I tried a couple of the $200 ones at some of the other casinos, and I did poorly in those.
Mm-hmm.
I would play the cash games at the World Series of Poker casino, which was the Rio, and I just it didn't feel like anything was going my way. Like
Yeah.
I would get my money in good a lot of times with the best hand, and somebody would call me with a draw, and the draw would always hit. Sets lost to flushes lost to boats. I just felt snake bit. So by the time the main event came around that Thursday, it didn't feel like, it felt like I would just be throwing money away if I spent the $10,000 to buy in. So I kind of said, you know what, maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, even with poker losses aside, that week was awesome. Like we were staying at an Airbnb in Vegas off the Strip with about 15 other people, that we were all part of the same home game. We were all part of the same Facebook group in Dallas, and so I knew all of them, and they were all a great bunch of guys. The Airbnb was amazing. It had a pool, jacuzzi, basketball court, mini putt golf course.
Wow.
It had like 6 bedrooms. It had a shuffleboard.
Oh my God.
Inside. Yeah, it was like the most amenities you could imagine, like in this, and it wasn't that expensive. Like, so it was an amazing experience. If you take the poker out of it, like, like it was, some of the most fun I've ever had. So I would definitely do it again.
Yeah.
And the next time I go, I want to actually do what I had set out to do from the beginning, which is play the main event. But I think I'm probably going to take the same mindset I took this year and say, hey, let me feel things out first and see how I'm actually running
Yeah, yeah.
from a card standpoint. If I run as poorly next year as I did this year, maybe that 10K will get put back in the holster for 2023 or something.
Yeah, yeah, just holding off on that. Oh
But yeah,
man.
it was an amazing experience. I would do it again tenfold over.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I was thinking because like in that your newest podcast, you talk about like what like the nature of gambling and all this stuff, and that's a concept I've been kind of interested in because I got really really obsessed with the movie Uncut Gems that came out recently with
The Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a great movie.
Oh, it's so good, man. It's
I
so
loved
good.
it.
Yeah, yeah, and like that movie got me thinking. It's like I think there's like a parallel between the type of person who would sit at a poker table or look at sports betting and stuff for hours and hours and just run the numbers and kind of feel all this out and for the hope of that big win, to someone who sits at their computer for however many hours cutting up the stupid anime footage for that risk of like getting something that connects, you know, and like,
getting recognition.
Yeah, and getting
maybe
that,
a contest, trophy or something.
yeah.
A lot of people, I think a lot of editors are kind of in it for the fame and the notoriety,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome. I'm all for it, but they don't always go in thinking that they just want to do something artistic or make something out of a vision they had. I think a lot of times, at least in my experience, there was editors that solely made videos for the specific purpose of trying to win a contest category at a convention, which I have no qualms with. I've done it too. Like there's been times where I've made videos specifically for contests, specifically to try and win. So I fault nobody for that. But I think a lot of people have that mindset. And like going back to what you were saying, I think obviously there's a lot of math involved in poker.
Yeah.
And there is, like we were talking about, there is definitely a lot of math and using that part of your brain in editing, specifically for the purpose of getting the overall project fitting into your vision. You have to use a lot of math to get to that point.
Yeah.
And it's the same in poker. You have to use a lot of math to get to your objective of winning the hand, winning the tournament, winning money in a cash game, coming out ahead on your spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Trying to get into the positive. There's a lot of math involved in both areas. So there is definitely a lot of parallels in my estimation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can totally see it's like there are the people who like kind of just like, this is what people will like, I'll make this. But then there's kind of a difference where like when you have a kind of compulsion towards something and you're like, I really like this anime and stuff, you can figure out ways to bend that to ways that people will like it, and when you put in the craft and stuff, that's like impressive. Like at the end of the day, it is kind of show-offy stuff, like when I made that Evangelion video, I knew it was the right vibe for the footage, but I also knew it was like, okay, this will get people on my side when they see, oh, this guy didn't just toss this off, and I feel like it's like not a black and white, like, oh, I want to make something that'll impress people, or I want to make something for me. It's like you can find ways to bend your own sensibility to be like, this is something that's not going to totally alienate everyone and might even impress some people,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times for some editors, especially the real popular and famous ones back in the day, they were making videos based on expectations of what people wanted to see from them.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you are a very effects heavy editor, for example, people expect you to go even bigger and better on your next video. Like for example, Coop, he made Euphoria, right? And that was like one of the most groundbreaking effects heavy videos ever made at that time. It was like, revolutionary almost.
Yeah.
What he was doing with all of his effects and all that, rotoscoping and everything. I remember when he was telling me about his process and, how he went about doing a lot of like the spirals of videos running, in these little blocks around the actual circle of footage running in the middle of it. It just sounded exhausting. But obviously it was amazing.
Mhm.
But people in his next video expected him to, top it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to top something that you spent all of this time and effort and work on. Uh, and I think a lot of editors fell into that trap of, I got to make the next one even more effects heavy
Yeah.
and make it to the point where people won't be disappointed. And I think a lot of times that's some editors' downfall, is they put so much of a burden on themselves to try and top whatever they did before, especially if what they did before really was a hit and became popular. Um, they just burn themselves out trying to go bigger, and they just can never get to that point again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, if you want a prime example of how to deal with that, I mean, the Beatles. Like, what do you do with Sergeant Pepper, the biggest, best produced album at the time? It's like, well, fuck it, let's do the White Album and just like screw with everyone's expectations, and that's a way they were able to, push forward. And I can totally see that with editing.
Yeah, there is definitely parallel. Like I said, from a work and pride of your accomplishment standpoint, it really. Oh, and I'm not a musician at all.
Same.
I tried to learn guitar and I couldn't even figure out where my fingers were supposed to be placed. But I imagine that there's huge parallels between editing and writing music and performing music.
Mm-hmm.
I always imagine that if I was a guitar player and I wrote a song, it would have the same feeling as if I finished an AMV and had it shown at a convention. Would be similar to me actually performing that song in front of an audience. I know I'll never get to the point where I can do the guitar playing and musician in front of an audience, but that was the next best thing, and it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that. Yeah, like even just like in the craft, it's like music is so focused on like rhythm and tone and feeling and stuff, and that's totally what editing is too. Like you got to really focus on like it's just a gut thing. Like you watch something and you're like, that cut felt right. And it's the same way of like that, beat change a note in the song felt right, and it's just such a visceral kind of reaction. I can see that's why like they're very similar kind of mediums, and that's why like I think they involve similar processes in the way like that you receive gratification and create them.
Yeah, like have you ever actually entered an AMV contest?
Yeah, I've entered it. Yeah, every year I'm always sending out little applications.
Okay, do you actually go to the convention and kind of see like crowd reaction and
Like in terms of like how it's played, I went to one, and that was because I was working in a different province. Because I don't know what it is. The guys who are running the AMV contest in my hometown, they don't like me. They don't like me at all. Even that Evangelion video didn't make finalists. I don't know what it was. It didn't make local finalists. I'll never get over that. My Evangelion video, whatever. I mean, it was even weird. Like, this is a total tangent, but I found out one of the guys on the committee for that AMV contest was my work supervisor for a short while. It was pure coincidence because, like, yeah, I was in a little like internship placement, like with just a few months, and I was getting to know the people in my group. And then I brought up that like, oh, I do some video editing. He's like, oh, I judge a contest. I'm like, oh, what do you judge? Well, it's a stupid little thing. It's an AMV contest. I'm just like, what? And then I showed him my Evangelion video. He was like, oh yeah, I didn't like this one. It's ugly. And I'm just like, get the fuck out of here, man. I don't even want to fucking speak to you. But
yeah, what a small world.
Yeah, no, right. It was so weird. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I actually had a video play at a different province's AMV contest. It was at TsukinoCon, which was like just a little university AMV contest, and it was that pirouette video, like the Evangelion Karikano one that I sent, and it was just in this little university like lecture hall, and there was like, I don't know, I'd say like 100, 150 people there, maybe 200 at most, and the decibel levels in the other videos are all using like dubstep, pop, and then my little blues rock AMV comes in, and it's like, I don't know, you could hear a lot better. And everyone just like didn't really know how to react. But then at the end, everyone was cheering, and I was like, fuck yes. I felt like such a god. When I was leaving, I went up to people, I was like, hey, you saw that video, right? That was mine. Like, oh, that's good. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, the rush of seeing your video, the reaction to it from others in a crowd.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing else like it.
It was
like
a total high. Like, I really felt like I was like, oh my god, like, this is what it was for. Like, it was so many cheering people. And I mean, the next day when they announced the results, I lost to a Vine compilation AMV. But I don't fucking care. Whatever. My video showed, and that's all I needed.
Yeah, and like getting back to the the parallels of how the recognition part of it works. A lot of editors are working with the sole intent of getting that high. It's almost like a drug addiction. Like,
yeah, or like gambling,
Yeah. They want to feel that experience again.
Yeah.
So they make videos with the specific purpose of trying to please the crowd because they want to hear, that audience react, positively to it because there's just no feeling like it.
Yeah.
So, like we were saying, a lot of editors kind of fall into that trap of trying to make something that they know other people will like instead of making something that they think is something artistic or something that is personal to them. They're trying to win the crowd basically, which again, nothing wrong with that. I've done it. All editors are always looking for that next high.
Yeah.
Like a shot of heroin or something.
Yeah, really. No, like it really is. And there is something kind of admirable in the craftsmanship required to like totally be like this is something I'm crafting as like a work outside myself. It's like cuz like it's so easy to get hung up on like this is what I'm obsessed with and like these are all little things and I mean you're still making stuff for other people, but it can get a little selfish when you're like this is me, this is mine, this is what I care about. I don't give a fuck about other people. And there is a certain kind of like honorable selfless craftsmanship in just being like this is what people will like and I'm distancing myself from it. But I find it hard to work under that just because it's not compelling to me. Maybe just because I'm a little more selfish when it comes to that.
Yeah, everybody kind of has their own, separate mindset when it comes to AMVs. Like some people make it very personal. Like they make videos with the sole intention of expressing whatever feelings they're having at the time. And then there's other times, and a lot of times people don't share that vision. So you make something and you think, this was me pouring my heart out. And then you get it seen at a convention and nobody gets it. Like, So, and that can be so discouraging sometimes to the point where people will say, well, next time I don't want to have that feeling again. Let me make something that I think is funny. And like everybody will be clapping and happy and laughing. Everybody wants the endorphin hit. So.
Yeah. No, I can see that. And yeah, that's like, it's just kind of, that's what I'm kind of realizing. It's like, this is going way out there, but like people talk about like what is the point of like where do you direct your energy? Like what do you do? And like to me, I'm starting to slowly more and more realize that it's just like if you think about something, be it like playing cards, be it making an AMV, be it going out and playing sports. If you feel this gut impulse, it's like I want to do that, like, and you can manage to make that work. Like that's what it's all about, I think, and I think that applies to all that stuff. And if you can excel in that, that's where it all pays off, and that's where you can really kind of make something of yourself.
Yeah, and if you can get to the point where you're actually getting paid to do it, that's when you've really won in life. Like a lot of editors from back in that time period that I was editing went on to become professional editors, like Carlos, the guy that was doing the documentaries with me back in those early days. He went on to direct movies. He has a really successful career in audio editing. A lot of movie companies use him and his company to edit audio and to work boom mics and things like that. I don't know if you ever saw the documentary about the Atari ET cartridges that were buried. He actually did the audio for that. Wow. He's done several, things that have been shown on Netflix. It can definitely, and he loves it. He was editing from the very, initial concepts of his AMV, I guess, journey, and he turned that into a really lucrative career. And then other people I know that were editors back then, they work for TV shows and they do professional editing, and their passion became something that they actually get to make a living with, and it's awesome.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, that's the dream. I mean, I'm still like a youngster here, so I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it all out, but man,
I am curious. Like, what videos because you said you're kind of new to the process. So,
Mhm.
what videos were the ones that got you into wanting to become an AMV editor?
I mean, it's not gonna be the good ones, like, because I'm like,
I
again.
mean, it never is. Like a lot of the videos that got me to want to do it
Hmm.
were ones that no one's even heard of,
Yeah.
that were just something that seemed really cool at that time. A lot of the videos that I got to into initially were videos that were made using real player software and like the really old version of the Apple QuickTime video, like .mov files and .rm files were some of the earliest videos I saw that were the ones that made me think, hey, I can do this. This is really cool. So but no one's ever heard of them. Like I still have some of those old videos that, like, they're not even cataloged on amv.org. They're so old.
Oh
So I
man.
mean, I like I wouldn't expect you to have, like, to say it's all the ones that you're on the top 10 of the org categories, but was there anything like that in particular that made you want to get into it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I remember the biggest one, like one that I remember hitting. It's not even. It kind of feels cheap because it's not a fan made thing. It's a professional. It was a movie trailer for the movie Paranorman.
The cartoon, right?
Yeah, the
The
stop
animated
motion
movie, right?
cartoon. Yeah, the teaser trailer for that just used Donovan's Season of the Witch. No other audio, just the song Season of the Witch by Donovan. And it just made the whole trailer and was just scenes synced up to that. And it was basically like an AMV, but as a movie trailer. I remember, like, first, I never heard a song like that before. I mean, I was like 10 when I saw that. And it was like, I just saw that and it was like, it was the exact music I had always wanted to hear, just like really raw, kind of stripped back acoustic-y stuff, which I never really heard. And then in just the pure cinematic kind of thing they had managed to translate just through syncing up these disconnected animated scenes to the song, I was just like, that's so cool. You can do that. It just felt so like grand. And this is also really embarrassing, but I used to be obsessed. I didn't even know what fucking AMVs were because I was that weird. I was obsessed with My Little Pony music videos at the time. Like, and they were awful. Like, looking back, they were, because the thing is, like, this is something that AMVs has kind of ruined for me, is the way American cartoons are shot 99% of the time. They're shot like sitcoms, just a static shot of just people talking, and that's so much of cartoons that it pisses me off. Anyway, but like, and that's what My Little Pony is. My Little Pony is just characters talking so much of the time. But I remember I saw like a few. I saw one that was like the No Country for Old Men trailer with My Little Pony, and I was like, that's so cool. You could do this adult thing with this other thing. And I was thinking, I was just like, that's awesome. And I used to lie in the back seat of my parents' car where we'd have these long drives. 'Cause we lived in a small town, so we'd drive to the city, and I would lay down the back for like hours, and I'd listen to my playlist of like awful music, and I would imagine, like, I remember I could see it was like a TV. I could see music videos to my favorite things. Like I was trying to think, it was like My Little Pony factored in there at the time. And then just like movie characters and stuff, just enacting scenes from these songs and I was like, that would be so cool if I could make something like that. But I never thought I could until I just did it one day, where I was just like, I saw the show Kodomo no Jikan, which is this. It's where a teacher dates a third grader. Like, it's a really bad idea. It's a really bad idea for a show. But there's this one image in the show near the end where this brother character, it becomes like this operatic melodrama from the dumbest concept. And there's a scene where the brother of the third grader gets stabbed with a knife, and he has a dream that he's talking to their dead mother, and she's floating, and he has this knife sticking out of him, and they're in this like dream field or something. And I was just like, that is the most like cinematic image out of this dog shit like stupid anime. And I was just like, I gotta show this to everyone. Everyone has to see this. And that was the impetus behind my first video, was just translating that one shot into something people could more easily digest. They didn't have to watch this whole stupid show.
Yeah, like I think that's where a lot of people start. They see this one scene, like maybe this one action fight scene, and say, "Oh, okay, what if I, took this heavy metal song and
Yeah.
and put it as the background music to this straight shot of unedited fighting, and maybe that'll turn out cool. That's kind of what made me want to do it. Like a lot of those videos you were asking about earlier, before the show, where you're saying, "Hey, what is that? Dueling Saiyans and Super Beasts?" That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, okay, well, the Dragon Ball GT fight with Super Saiyan 4 Goku fighting the giant gorilla Super Saiyan was really cool. So, if I take a Rob Zombie song and make it the soundtrack, this might look okay. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just weird stuff like that. Like the Sex Pistols, video with Goku and Majin Vegeta fighting in Dragon Ball Z. It's like, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's just like, man, it just seems like it would be cool, but it once you actually do it, it's like, oh, it wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be like.
Well, because like it's one of those things. Like I still do this a lot, where I'll like put on an album and just watch something muted, and it's just so cool to see like what'll happen. Cause sometimes it feels like magic, where just suddenly things sync up. Like that's like the Dark Side of the Moon, Wizard of Oz thing, where it's just like the human brain is just kind of programmed to make those associations, and so I think inevitably the early videos are just gonna be like those associations.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things for me, even before I learned about anime music videos, was MTV obviously had a huge influence on me. Like just seeing music put together with images and video was something that seemed unattainable to me unless you were a professional editor, back when it was originally happening. But I always felt like, if I wanted to make my own video, I would probably use movies, like some movie I liked or different movie scenes, and put that with the song instead of actually watching the band playing, and it would probably look cooler. But it never really occurred to me that would be an actual achievable thing until they made editing software available to everybody, and they made it easy to download music. Like Napster had a huge influence, because all of a sudden all of these songs are at my disposal anytime I want. Like that, and then the internet and being able to download files and peer to peer just opened up things that were never available in the 80s and early 90s, where like how would I ever be able to get this VHS tape into a format where I could actually edit it? Like that just seemed like a foreign concept to me. And the internet, Napster, Windows Movie Maker kind of just, I think, paved the way for a lot of people, to where all of a sudden all of these concepts and ideas were actually doable when they were just pipe dreams. Probably for a lot of people.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. I was actually just thinking, like, just before, like, maybe, like, I don't know, like half an hour before we started calling here, I watched the censored version of that Project. I don't know what the symbol is. Project Symbol. The file name was called.
It's what it is. It's a L with it's almost like an emoji of somebody sticking their tongue out.
Oh,
I think that's what they were going for. Like, I wasn't the head of that project, but I only had the little snippet. My part of it was the Breaking movie with the LA Blue Girl.
That's so awesome that was you.
Overlay.
Yeah.
And then I have the uncensored part of that portion of the video, and I could have swore I had the uncensored version of it entirely. But I've gone through a couple of different hard drive collapses and changes. So every time I've lost a hard drive and had to try and recover all of my AMVs from the previous time, I've lost videos. And I'm sure it probably got lost in one of those hard drive dying instances. Because I used to have thousands of AMVs when I first started. I had one of the biggest collections of the people I knew. But when that hard drive, and back then, hard drives weren't 1 terabyte and 2 terabytes like they are now. They were like, you were lucky to have a 200 gig hard drive back in those days.
Wow.
One of the first editing machines I had was an E-machine, which is about as low end as you can get on the PC scale, and it had maybe 20 gig hard drive.
Nice.
So again, one of the reasons why I was working with the lowest possible file sizes as I could and the lowest quality files as I could, just to be able to make my concept work. Like I did not have the luxury of being able to say, okay, I'm going to have this 10 gig lossless uncompressed video file at a 1280 by 720 resolution at my disposal or something like that. It was very, very different time.
Yeah. No, man. Oh, that's so interesting. And one day I'll have to track down the uncensored version of that Project Symbol video, or whatever, because it feels just like this perfect time capsule of that era of popular culture. Even though it's a pretty distant memory for me because I was really young, but it's just the energy behind that video, all the stuff in it. It's just, man, that video is so cool, man. And I'm sure there must be. I'm not too well versed in multi-editor projects, just because, to get into them is I don't know. If it's one song, one editor, it's much easier to digest. But when it's all these people, it can be hard. But I gotta check out more if there's more like that, because it's just so cool. Just this explosion of pop culture in that video.
Yeah, like the people that ran that project, one of them is Mr. Pilkington, who actually was head of the Anime Weekend Atlanta video art track for a little while. I'm not sure if he still is, but him and another guy named Matt, AMV 4000 was his org name. They were kind of the ones that spearheaded that project and recruited others to kind of contribute segments to it. And they made some of the wackiest and craziest videos I've ever seen. Like their concepts are so out there, and I loved it. I loved everything that they did. And that when they approached me about working on that video, they gave me the concept and they say, okay, we want to make a dirty video to this Beastie Boys song, and we want you to come up with the craziest ideas that you can come up with. And it was right up my alley. And I was like, well, can it be anything? Does it have to be anime? It's like, just do whatever you want. Like, if you'll notice, there's different segments of that aren't even anime. They're just like regular cartoons. And
yeah, that's what's so cool about it.
Yeah, just stuff out of nowhere. And I was like, okay, well, I had always kind of wanted to do a Breakin' video, because Breakin' is like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Iconic, man. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what if I did that, but to keep with their theme of wanting to have a hentai part be in it somehow? What if I just took the girl singing the lyrics? So a lot of the overlay I did, again, a lot of that was hand edited.
Oh my God, dude.
Greening out everything outside of LA Blue Girl, which was the anime.
Yeah.
I greened everything else out by hand. The actual lips and mouth, I just cropped out everything but the mouth, and overlaid that on the static image that I had edited in MS Paint.
Wow.
Just to get the lyric, and then obviously I had to slow down and speed up the mouth to get it to sync up with the words.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably 5 different tracks of overlays on top of the actual Breakin' footage, which was sped up probably like 150% to try and get it to match. And then I threw in some inverts in there to try and accentuate I think there's a lot of cymbal crashes in that. So
yeah.
So I used the inverts to kind of accentuate those, and it was fun. And the best thing about it is, does my segment and multi-editor projects, when it's just one song, you only have to deal with 20 or 30 seconds. That it seems a lot less intimidating than you're looking at a 5-minute timeline and like, oh man, how am I going to fill all this in? And those were always a lot of fun. I probably took part in, I don't know, 5 to 10 multi-editor projects.
Oh man, that's so cool, man. Also, I gotta ask, just because this has been an obsession for me this last year. It's another selfish crush for me. But Beastie Boys are guys I never even really knew about until like last year, and then now it's just like opened this world to me of Beastie Boys stuff that has been blowing my mind. I don't know, it's like, because I noticed you have two. There's the Check It Out and also Sabotage. I was wondering, do you have any particular Beastie Boys highlights or anything? This is just for me.
Yeah, like. In one of our podcast episodes, we have like 4 co-hosts, and we each did a questionnaire about the bands that influenced you the most.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions is something like, what is the band that got you into music, or something like that? And Beastie Boys was my choice because License to Ill was the first cassette I ever purchased, and
Dude.
it was the most influential uh album I ever bought. Like I wasn't, you know, prior to that I wasn't huge into rap or anything. Like I listened to Top 40 radio. This was, you know, mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And and what got me into it, well, obviously was Fight for Your Right to Party, which was the MTV. It was big on MTV at that time. And then so I took a flyer on the cassette specifically because of that song, and every song on there I loved.
Every song, yeah, man. Like,
yeah, License to Ill is nothing but awesome hits.
Yeah, and like all like the production, man, on that, it's like, oh my god.
A lot of times I'll get into debates with other people on the show because they're not all, you know, big Beastie Boys fans. So I'm always having to to defend their honor in a way. How many? The whole concept of how many is basically, I say an artist, director, an actor, musician, and I say, okay, Quentin Tarantino, how many good movies does he have? He has a total of, let's say, 12 movies. How many of them are actually good? And then we sit down and we look at the list and we figure out together, okay, is Kill Bill good? Do you want to count that one? Yeah, of course. Pulp Fiction, obviously, yes. Reservoir Dogs. So when the Beastie Boys come up, I'll say, okay, well, realistically, maybe 25 to 30 great songs.
Yeah.
And there'll be people on the panel that'll say, what? Maybe 3. Like, you'll be lucky to get to 3. Like, a lot of them are said they're a one-hit wonder. It's Fight for Your Right to Party, and that's it. Like, it's
no way.
The span of taste on that show is vastly different. Like, I mean, things that I think suck, they think that, like, one of them is really big into Neil Young.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, Neil Young, he's probably got 20, 25 good songs. Like, really? Maybe 2? Like, maybe 3? Like, I mean, so it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Beastie Boys was a huge influence on me. I love them.
Yeah, they got some real shit going on.
I'm glad they've picked up another fan, because I'm always singing their praises. Well, I actually got to get going. I've got another thing I got to take care of. So,
yeah.
Is there anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah, it's usually end with, like, if there's anything you got to plug, anything you wanna be repping, just.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, like we talked about, I do have a podcast. If you go to howmanypodcasts.com, all of our episodes are there. Like I said, the concept of the show is basically just rating and debating pop culture topics, sports, movies, music, food. We run the gambit, man. We've done episodes about Six Flags rides. We've done episodes on how many good sandwiches there are. And we basically just get a baseline off of some list we'll find online and say, okay, there's 50 great sandwiches on this list. Let's see how many of them are good, you know? So howmanypodcasts.com is where you can listen to those episodes. We have a YouTube channel as well. If you're interested in watching any of the AMVs that we talked about that I've made, I have a YouTube channel as well. Just search MexicanJunior AMV on YouTube, and I'm sure all of those will pop up. Actually, I think you may have been my 100th subscriber on my YouTube channel.
Let's go.
Which means that you can actually make a customized YouTube URL. When you get to 100, that's the threshold where you can actually make. So I'm gonna actually be able to make a custom URL for my YouTube channel now, until somebody decides to unsubscribe and get me down to 99. But yeah, again, all of those videos I made between 2000 and 2006. So pardon the quality on some of them, but they were a lot of fun to make. And if anybody's interested in them, you can definitely find them there.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This is an amazing combo. It's great to geek out about AMVs with someone. And yeah, just thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you. I loved it. If you ever want to do it again, just let me know.